Hello and welcome to The Deepest Dive, the best, most thorough discussion about Batman Arkham Asylum on the internet. I'm Ben Hansen, and I'm joined by Batman himself, Brandon Jones from Easy Allies. Welcome, sir. And then we also have Kyle Hilliard, also a big Batman fan.
Indeed. Hello.
And Brian Vore, who likes Batman, but he's not a nut who's like drawing pictures of the bat symbol in his free time.
Yeah, I didn't sketch it in my free time, so I guess I'm lower on the totem pole.
That was my thing, Ben. Like, when people drew funny pictures of stuff, like in high school, just doodling in class, it was just bat signals. It was literally all bat, like any weirdo bat signal you can imagine.
That's so
was
weird.
It like the 1989 Too Many Prongs version that they later had to like change?
Well,
I
kept thinking, like, how can you make a new one? You know, it was like I knew enough about Batman and be like, we've seen enough different bat signals now. Because like when 89, I was 10 years old when the Burton movie happened. So like that was the bat signal. Like, and you watch the old like Adam West. It's like, what is this weird thing? It's like, well, they're all kind of technically bat signals. And I remember one of them that I would draw over and over again was like pretty close to the Nolan one. I was like, oh, with the straight line on top. Yeah, I tried that.
Nice try.
Been there.
Yeah. That's the thing. It's not a bad symbol. It's a target, right, Kyle?
That's right.
Remember
we learned that in Dark Knight Returns.
Yeah, that's my favorite little tidbit, that idea. They're like, no, it's so obnoxious because he wants enemies to aim at that because that's the bulletproof part. It's like, oh, that's so smart. That comes out, 60 years after Batman was created, or I guess, 40 at that point. But it takes that long to be like, there's a reason that he wears this stupid symbol on his chest.
I think it's... That's me. I'm a big Batman fan, but the whole concept of him, like, just wear black, dude. You're a ninja. Like, don't wear. It's like a ninja where you have like a ninja symbol. Like, yeah, I'm a ninja. Yeah.
Don't you forget it.
I'll put it on my belt. I'll make my belt bright yellow. Yeah.
This is a Game Club discussion covering the second half of Batman Arkham Asylum. If you found this video without finding the first, you should go back and find that on MinnMax's YouTube channel. Give us a big old sub. We'd appreciate it. This is covering everything in Batman Arkham Asylum from the point when you get the line launcher up until credits roll and beyond. You can unlock the podcast version of this discussion and just help support Deepest Dive in the future. You can submit a comment for future Deepest Dive choices, all that fun stuff. Anyways, if you support us at patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's, we'd appreciate the support. And you can unlock the podcast version, compete in the next game of Trivia Tower, all that fun stuff. Okay. This is the second half of the Deepest Dive on Batman Arkham Asylum. Here's the thing. We collected a bunch of comments, dozens and dozens and dozens of comments from Patreon. Brandon Jones, what do you think the most common comment about the second half of Batman Arkham Asylum is?
The ending. The last boss fight.
Last boss fight. Solid guess. Kyle?
Croc fight, worst part of the game.
I will tell you, we did not get one comment about that. In fact, we got the opposite.
Really? Okay.
Spicy.
I'm pretty confident about that.
Brian Vore?
Well, the first thing that popped into my head was also the last boss fight, but I'll change it up. Maybe the collecting Riddler trophies.
Good guesses all around. Final boss fight disappointment was number 2. Number 1, it's a more positive community, so they chose a fun thing. They went with that they really enjoyed the guards outside of Joker's party. The ones that are like, hey, way to go, Batman, as you're walking. Everybody loved those weird guards and just like little factoids about them. So, hey, I guess takes all kinds.
I got all the Riddler trophies again. I couldn't help myself.
Nice.
And there was that point where those guys are standing out in front with the sign, and I like kept going back and forth to collect Riddler trophies, during the course of the game. So I would just like, every time I would pass them, I was like, what do they think I'm doing right now? Like, it's very clear I'm supposed to go in there, but I'm just like off doing something.
Greg.
Those guys, it's like we have this whole speech prepared of like, hey, we're going to pretend like he's not on the list, but then he's really the only guy on the list.
Dude, when your life is that
around.
miserable, you've been in a prison for so long, this would be the most fun thing. If like the Dark Prince of Crime comes, it's like, okay, here's a little bit we're going to play everybody. They're like, yes, finally something interesting in my life. I get to role play. Let's just get into Riddler stuff. Hey, Kyle?
Sure.
Greg Kettering here correct me if I'm wrong, Brandon Jones, is this Greg the Dark Knight Kettering?
Oh, this is definitely Greg the Dark Knight Kettering for sure.
There we go. He says he loves the Riddler trophies in the game. This is the one where I always have to get all of them, even in replays. It's where all the fun nods exist and really leans into the Metroid-style mechanics. I felt with City and others, there got to be too many items and too cryptic at times. Where does the panel stand with the Riddler trophies in this game? Are any others addicted to catching them all?
Yeah, definitely have to get them all. Yeah, and I think in this one they're less puzzly and more just all Easter eggs. Like almost every, not the physical trophies obviously, but like the majority of them are like, oh, that's that character. Oh, that's, there were many, even being a Batman fan, like the first time I played through it, that I like wasn't familiar with. I think one was like the Zeus guy. What was his name? Maxi Zeus. Like I wasn't familiar with him before I played the game, and he never really showed up again in the Arkham lore. But like stuff like that, I loved.
Yeah, what's a Maxi Zeus all about?
He thinks he's a god. He thinks he's actually Zeus. Like he tries to command lightning, and it's kind of like Shocker, but he's just like, I am a god, and Batman's like, all right.
That's confusing.
Like Riddler, like put Riddler in Arkham, sure, because he's like got delusions of grandeur, but like Riddler doesn't think he's actual, on a pantheon.
Yeah, he's down to earth.
Godlike powers.
But hang on,
he's one of like 100 characters in this game whose description says peak physical perfection. Like they're all like extremely brilliant and at peak combat prowess.
Exactly the right time
just
for Batman.
On that topic real quick, I know we're already getting sidetracked, but like when you get the Wayne Tower Riddler trophy and you get the sort of description of Bruce Wayne, it like doesn't hint that he's Batman, I don't think, which like begs the question is like, who's writing all these things? Like it's like or it was either that or like it does say that he's Batman, and that confused me because it's like, I guess Batman's writing all these, and he wrote like a very positive one about himself. It was very
yeah. Chris is a super sweet tower. The guy who built that must be cool.
Chris Prohaska writes in and he says, hey divers, I wanted to comment on a fun fourth wall breaking bit of dialogue Riddler says as you near the 100% mark of his challenges. He accuses you of looking them up on the internet. He obviously isn't talking to Batman because no one on the internet there would be able to tell him the locations or answers. So he must be speaking directly to the player. This had a special impact on me because playing Asylum for the first time, I took pride in the fact that I didn't look anything up because it was going to be my first platinum trophy.
Well, I think that's what's so special about this game. It's like, this is a Batman video game. This isn't based on anything, like this is the creators from start to finish thinking, how can we tell a Batman story that is most effective in video game form? And we'll get to like the best thing they did, the best idea they had, which we haven't talked about yet in terms of like, how can we really mess with like people who play games and like kind of in a Eternal Darkness kind of a way where you're like, erase my memory. What?
It's unbelievable
stuff.
Last beat on Riddler though. So when you get 100% with Riddler, then what happens, Kyle?
I do have the footage, so I can give it to you to use. It's not like it's not like a cutscene or anything, but basically but at the last three, you have like three left. Riddler, Batman like pulls up something and it shows that he's figured out how to track Riddler in some way, shape, or form. And then when you finally collect those last few, Riddler gets like really upset and he's like, how could you do this? How could you figure this out? And Batman just kind of like, pulls up his wristwatch and presses a couple of buttons. And then you just listen for a while. You hear cops breaking into wherever Riddler is to like arrest him. And Batman's just sitting there quietly while Riddler's just like stomping his feet like a toddler. He's like so upset about what's happened. It's so good.
Yeah, you can hear the cops busting in and he's just like, Batman, I can't believe he got me. And Batman's just like,
the fact that Batman stays silent is such a boss move. Like he's just like, I'm done. I'm moving on to the next thing. I've only got that once because when I heard what it was, I was like, okay, that's worth it. I got to get that. Where I wouldn't naturally have been predisposed like to collect all those things, especially in the later Arkham games. I was like, I'm good. I can get through this. But I love how, because I've heard over the years people being disappointed. They're like, I thought that would amount to a little bit more than just a phone call, like from the Riddler to wrap that up. But like, I kind of like how Batman's like,
I have so many.
He doesn't have time for you. Like, he swats him like a fly. It's just like, whatever, leave me alone.
I actually have to fight people. Like, I don't have time for stupid riddles right now, man.
Yeah, even though I spent probably more time in this section looking for Riddler trophies than actually like the main core game. Like, If it was just the main core game, I could have just like blasted through it so fast. But it was fun. I mean, one thing I will say is even though it's like more narrowed down, like there is a whole lot of just walking through just empty corridors looking for that, like, I guess I missed one way in the back of this building, and there's no like Metroid or Castlevania warps or anything. So you're just like just running through a silent, like you'll hear it's just like the standard B-roll background noise of just like prison, but like there's no new bad guys. It takes a while, but I will say in the vein of the Batman crest that you guys were talking about, like talking about explanations, one of the things I thought was really cool from Riddler was that he said he was in one of his interview tapes. He was like, Batman's, the real villain, obvious, like that's a common sentiment, but he's like, how do you think he's got all the money for those gadgets? He commits crimes. He's the biggest criminal of all. He's like always right. He's like doing it with the police's knowledge, and they just abide him, and that's how he affords all these crazy huge gadgets and stuff. I'm like, that's a cool kind of conspiracy theory, like angle on like there's no other way he could afford all these things. Like,
I love that idea that you think like in this world, I like to think of Bruce Wayne. He's like, he's in a jacuzzi right now. There's no way that guy would endure, like any of these villains would be like insulted if you were actually to tell them like, no, it's that guy, like that guy that you saw on CNN, like talking about stocks, like it's him, like that's the guy.
And Riddler's not wrong to point out that it's BS that the cops are just complicit with him doing whatever he wants, like,
yeah. And it's nice that the cops are involved, it's like there's so much of like, the cops got caught, that I like that, like he gives them that Riddler catch, that he's just no, I'm not even gonna do it myself. I'm just gonna, they gotta get some kind of a win tonight.
Yeah.
And it also makes you feel, it's like him flying away at the end. It like, the city's there. It's like, it makes the city feel active. Like, Two-Face at the end, like he's robbing the bank, it's like, stuff's going on.
That was the weird thing about playing the back half of this game is like, it sets up cities so much better than I expected. Just the idea of the threat to the city, and even just looking at the city in the backdrop. I mean, there's that awesome part where it's kind of platforming and you can see the city in the backdrop. It just feels like it's all roads are going to the city. And so it must have just been so satisfying to be a huge fan of this game. And then city was announced like, all right, here's the thing that we've been expecting for a long time now. Just let us go to the actual city, even though it's a section of it and it's kind of funky.
To follow up last week real quick, that room that has the map for city, that is there. It's just like a huge pain to line up the bombs correctly. Like you have to line 3 up perfectly. And it was like, I did it eventually, but it took me like 8 or 9 tries to get them there. So it was not removed as I thought.
I tried it too, just to be like, maybe I'm just mixed up here. And I eventually gave up. I'm like, I gotta keep going on this Riddler train. I can't spend an hour trying to get these perfect explosion foams going. But that would
no one found it at that point.
Yeah.
If it was as easy as just putting 3 on there, maybe somebody would have bombed every wall and found it, but like, not even though we know it's there, the fact that we still can't get into it is nuts, and it's totally understandable why no one ever found it until they had to spell it out and draw an X on the map.
Please enjoy our Easter egg. Jake Tricks submitted a comment on Patreon here. He says, just a quick shout out to Brandon Jones. Back in 2009, I won a copy of Batman Arkham Asylum through game trailers for being the first one to answer some Batman trivia correctly.
Yes.
The trivia,
I was not involved in that in any way.
But still, it felt like it. He then says the trivia question was along the lines of, before Arkham Asylum, how many console video games has Kevin Conroy lent his talent to? Can the panel name the games?
2.
What do you think they are?
More than 2.
Sun
That's
Tzu,
awesome. I gotta play. Yes, Sin Tzu and Vengeance would be the only 2.
Vengeance.
He lists 2 more.
Maybe there might be like a CDI game or something. There was. I remember my friend had a Jaguar that came with a disc that had a couple episodes of the animated series on it. There might be some weird thing like that.
There's a Sega CD game that he doesn't list what it is, but let's see what it actually is.
Is it a racing game?
It might be the animated series. It might have just had like.
I remember playing a Batmobile racing game, but I don't remember it being tied to the animated series. But I guess I'm wrong. That's cool.
Correct. So that's on PlayStation as well. So it was on Batman Gotham City Racer. Apparently, Conroy's on that one, and then apparently he is also credited for the Adventures of Batman and Robin.
On Super Nintendo?
Yeah, I guess
just
so.
like they grabbed like a sound effect or something. You know what's pretty funny actually, that like he's, you know, his performance is just, it's absolutely perfect, but it is a dumb video game. And so like there are a couple of effort noises that are like, brr, and I'm like, what was that, Conroy? Like there's a couple little like grunts and, you know, a couple sounds that are a little silly. Like it was like you were saying, for like you hear it for the 500th time. And you're like, what is he doing there? Like, what exactly is that supposed to be?
Okay, so where we left off, Batman has got the line launcher. He goes and talks to Poison Ivy. He really wants that sweet antidote, and she's like, I don't think so. Like, I like a lot of things about where Poison Ivy's at in this game, but then a lot I'm not crazy about. We'll dive into Poison Ivy. But I like her avenue of just like, I kind of want to see a squirm. I'll let Joker have his fun right now. Like, I'm not going to give you this antidote. Don't mess with my plants. The end.
Yeah, you know, also her general, just the character in general, not even outside of Arkham, like her sort of environmentalist, sort of like flailing her hands in the air, like the earth is dying, like hits a lot harder than it did when I was a kid. I'm like, you know, maybe Poison Ivy's like onto something here. Maybe she should work with Batman. They should figure something out.
Yeah, I think that is, I mean, we can talk about Poison Ivy now. I think that is like the most fascinating thing is I think she's a really interesting character, but not for the reasons that they're trying to push down your throat. Like she, in this game, she is basically just the comedy bang bang character of Samantha from Sex and the City, where she's, ooh, I love f***ing. Like that's just her entire character in this game. Whereas like the idea of like this being that is seeing the earth and life in a different, like from a different perspective is so fascinating, just to be like, no, stop worrying about these little things. You need to worry about these things. You're not seeing things correctly. She has such an interesting angle that she could be talking about instead of just like, oh, these plants are so horny for you, Batman. It's like, whatever.
It's mostly reasonable, but then I think in general, she always kind of crosses the line into like, well, humans are the biggest enemy of plants, so they all need to be poisoned and killed. But if she just kind of stuck with the environmental, I think she could get a lot of stuff done in the world with climate change. If she just kind of dialed it back a little bit.
Yeah. And that's the weird thing about seeing her in this game. It's like, shouldn't she be the biggest celebrity on Earth? Like, what are the paparazzi in this universe doing if not just being like, good God, this woman can control plants and she's attractive. Let's get her in every tabloid we can.
Taking pictures of Bruce Wayne. I don't know.
And it's hard to tell too if she's like upset about all the plants in the world or just her plants. She's like, the plants, they're suffering. And then she's like, finally, my plants. And you're like, yeah, but there's other plants. Also, like, leave. Like, just get out of here. Like, you can't. You can't build some plant boat and like get out of here.
Yeah, make like a tree and leave. How
what's
hard
holding
is
her
it?
back? Yeah, she's like, this island's mine. It's like, this island sucks. Get out of here. Like, there's more. You're setting your sights.
Go to the Amazon. You'll love it.
I like that they, you know, I definitely get a sense though, for as much as I don't like her characterization, man, when she takes over that island, it's like, we should probably, let's wrap this up. You know, like this is not, I like how it seems like kind of Joker underestimates her too. Yep, like it was not her plan to let her go. And, you know, it's Harley, you know, that gets her out. And I like that. I can't remember if it's in this game where he picks up her pheromone, he just has it. Like in all these other things, he's like, how the hell am I going to track, you know, Gordon, through his pipe. It's a good thing I found this. And then like, how the hell am I going to track, the warden? Like he kind of has to think and scan, you know, to do a lot of these things. And then when he's got to find Ivy, it's like, I'll just use Ivy's pheromone, which I have like in my belt. You know, it's like I always have that on hand.
He just has her
city where he does that. I can't remember.
He just has her undies in his utility belt.
Yeah, basically.
All right, that's the stuff. And also when like the little pods, when he's like, not these things again. Like he recognizes them from like something she did in the city. So I like that through him dealing with her, you get a sense of like he's dealt with her before, and I like that preparedness. That's one of the things I love about Batman is when he's just like, I'm ready for this. You know, it's like it's not gonna be easy, but at least I know. I rarely make the same mistake twice.
Yeah, he really knows how to punch a plant pod like 30,000 times.
Gotta sneak up on it.
Those frickin' pods. Here we go. Quentin Cassidy writes and he says, those plant pod enemies are the worst. Unless I was missing something, you just punch them and inevitably take a hit or two each time. At that point in the game, I wanted to start on the outdoor Riddler trophies, but they totally dissuaded me because I did not want to go near them. I found out after a while.
I don't know if you guys tried it, but with the walking close to them with the batarang out, like tiptoeing over. And then, especially once you get 3 or 2,
Yeah.
you can do like whoosh and kill both of the flying poison balls.
Yeah, that definitely helps when you use the Batarang, but it just feels like a Plants vs. Zombies enemy out of nowhere. Like, of all the things I expect in this game, I did not expect any of, like, I don't know. And then there's a bunch of Little Shop of Horrors monsters around and they slowly shoot 2 spheres at you. It's just such a weird structure for this game.
Yeah, and they give experience, so I couldn't help but like purposely kill them, every single one of them.
Right. Yeah, I think it kind of ties into maybe some weakness in the second half of this game, where so much of the second half is just, Batman, these plants are going crazy.
Yeah.
And it's like, in my heart of hearts, how much do I really care? In fact, I'm kind of rooting for him because it looks cool. You know, compared to like Joker, it's like, that's an exciting enemy to take down and to deal with. But instead of just like...
Until she blocks your path and you're like, hey.
Exactly. You know how to get in my way. Yeah, it goes from being such a fun threat dragging you along in this game to suddenly just like this detour for just this quarter of the game of, these plants are scary. It's like, okay, sure. Where's Joker? I really don't care. Yeah. And there's hints that I think are really fun of, like you mentioned, like the fact that Harley just let Poison Ivy out. It was never part of the plan. And then Joker kind of having to deal with her. Like there's that part where they're bickering over the intercom, where he's like, come on over, you bring the wine, I'll make a salad. Like all that stuff. Like that's really fun hearing those two. I think she even says like, once I take care of Batman, I'm coming for you, buddy. And like, that's fun. Just the idea that like, okay, now there's 3 different factions happening on this island at least.
Totally.
Not to, I don't want to jump ahead, but yeah, her boss fight was like, I remember just like being so stoked where I was like, oh my God, she got the Titan formula. And then she's like, just wait, Batman. And then like you see the guards and like they're taking over. I was like, oh, this is gonna be sweet. And then no, it's just a big plant. It's like, I'm never a fan of like little guy fighting big thing, you know, like obviously Shadow of the Colossus, a lot of God of War battles like do it really, really well. But like it's so often in games where it's like, I mean like literally like building size. Like, look at this little tiny thing. I can't grab him. Well, I won't.
Hitting a monster in the ankles with like a sword is like never fun.
Yeah, right.
So, and this isn't quite that, but I totally see what you're saying. Absolutely.
Yeah. A lot of people are with you. Yeah, James Baldwin here. He says, I know the boss fights were criticized at the time, but even still, the Poison Ivy one feels like such a relic compared to how well most other aspects of the game have aged. And like, it's not bad.
Relic's a good description.
It just feels kind of like a conventional boss fight around 2009, but it's not aggressively bad.
It's not
it's just they sell it more than they deliver, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I died way more on that fight than the actual final boss.
Oh, yeah. I think
it just took some going, like figuring things out again. But for some reason, I remembered all the Joker steps just like the back of my hand, like really easily. One thing about the Poison Ivy taking things over is it was cool initially how it kind of guided you to like where you needed to go, maybe open up some new paths. But what I really doesn't appreciate is like, okay, once I kill Poison Ivy or knock her out, some of these are going to go away. Maybe they'll open up new holes I can use for a shortcut. Like modern games, they definitely give you that kind of shortcut to come back and like, okay, next time I come back here, it'll be so easy. But this, it's like, it only cut off paths and made it more of a pain in the ass to get around to like clean up Riddler trophies. And it's a lot of these things are like, you know, stuff there's no way you could have ever gotten, like the big triple bat
Ultra
rope
Claw
puller thing.
Yeah.
And a lot of those things that you're never going to get. And you definitely were going to have to come back through here. But instead you have to like, well, now I got to go down, shimmy through an air vent, go around this other way, climb up and do this other weird thing just to go back and get a couple of trophies. That was annoying.
Yeah, I gotta say, like, mainly following the critical path, I was really impressed by how it was all laid out. Like, oh, it's pretty natural the way they're bringing you back to this area and all that stuff. But I'd imagine when you're going for the trophy run or for the Riddler trophies, that would really get draining. Before we leave this boss fight, Kitty Sasson, very specifically, says the reveal of Poison Ivy having a second health bar was the most demoralizing moment of the game. I finished her off with a sliver of my health left, and then the game revealed the second phase. It was at that point that I employed my tried and true method for the game, spend an upgrade point, and get Batman magically back to full health. I did not know about.
Oh, smart.
That's awesome. I love just having that holstered for that fight.
Very, very clever. Yeah.
At least like the checkpoint wasn't too bad there. I think if you die, you start at that second phase of the fight, which was
okay,
helpful.
cool, yeah.
Yeah, that's nice. I needed that.
Yeah. Of course, when she jumps into her giant vagina plant, she has to like moan her way in there and stuff too. It's like, all right, we get it. She's sexual. We got it, game. Tin Win writes in. He says, I want to take a second to talk about Poison Ivy. I like how Rocksteady kept staggering Poison Ivy and kept her in the player's mind throughout the game. She has values that Batman respects and knows that the situation here at Arkham Asylum can depend on her and her abilities. When Batman asks Ivy to help him out to ultimately save her plans in the asylum, he thought she could be an asset, a vastly different approach to other villains. Yeah, that's a good point, Tin. I like that idea. She's not fully evil.
I pretty much like immediately after finishing this started up Arkham Knight again because it had been a while and I played from the beginning and Ivy is like in the beginning of that game that I'd forgotten, and it is interesting to hear that comment because Batman's interaction with her in Arkham Knight is very polite and very formal. He practically like holds her hand to like let her sit in the Batmobile so he can drive her to the police station, and
right?
It's all very agreeable. There's no fighing.
Don't want any trouble here, buddy.
He's not just like tish, tish, tish.
Just for old time's sake,
Also, I like, it's the classic Batman thing. He's not going to kill anybody, but he's going to hold the pod that you're in and line it with explosives and detonate it in your face and hope that you're okay.
No time for bat symbols there, turns out.
That's true.
Too fast.
No,
weird
he like
bat
signs
mod.
Wayne or something. It's a longer squiggle. It's like,
He's like, oh crap, I didn't mean to write that.
Yeah, it's backwards though. She won't know.
Tommy Carver Chaplin here. He asks, how on earth was Ivy talking to Batman and the Joker in and around the asylum? Did I miss something obvious?
Yeah, that's a good point. How was it?
I don't know. Giora
The intercom was my assumption. I don't know.
She has her own
It's
intercom.
It's like my wife and I are rewatching the MCU right now. She's catching up on some movies like here and there that she missed. And she's like, how are they talking to each other? I'm like, they have an earpiece. She's like, where's the microphone? I'm like, you're asking too many questions. She's like, okay, sorry. So whenever a character actually like puts in an earpiece, she's like, ha
We got it.
But also like the Amadeus Arkham, like how, what, who's talking? What does Batman actually like hear that? Does he not hear it unless he like takes a picture of the thing and then Arkham's like, yes,
that reminds me.
Because he like that's not recorded. When you pick up the recordings, like how does this Batman like feed that film through like a recorder? Does he have like a little like tape deck in his like towel or what? How does? Yeah.
It's confusing. People in the Backstage Pass, Leafeon watching us live, he's screaming that she speaks through the plants. And then also on Patreon, Joran replied to that comment saying that she speaks through the plants. Maybe that's convenient.
Trust the fungus.
Maybe exactly. Maybe it's
like
some
the
point
Lorax,
actually say it.
basically.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a more interesting take for her. Absolutely. I am curious if there is like one really great Poison Ivy story out there in comics or anything, please leave a comment on the YouTube or you can tweet at me or in the Discord, let me know. Because I like the character.
She's great in the animated series. Again, all that Earth Day, like angst. She, and her like intro, her like origin episode is really great. And there's another one where her and Harlequin team up and have a grand old time. It's called like Harley's Day Out or something.
Yeah. I'm realizing now.
It was in the new style, I think. It was like one of the later seasons.
Okay. I'm realizing I think what I want from Poison Ivy is just to be Swamp Thing. Like so many of these themes are just like, that's kind of Swamp Thing's domain.
Well, it'd be fun. Yeah, it'd be a fun take to like have a not attractive Poison Ivy. Like that's not remotely part of what she's going for, like.
Right. Just barely recognizable.
Two-Face isn't like, do you like my suit? Like it's not.
Everyone's just kind of grossed out. She smells
Joker
really bad.
Joker for sure.
So I like when you get the line launcher, talk to Poison Ivy, you're heading back. There's a really satisfying moment where there's a huge gap and all the guards on this side are like, hey, good luck, stupid Batman. We'd like to see you get over here, buddy. And you shoot the line launcher and like, what the heck? You go and just kick him right in the face. It's very satisfying.
Yeah, I wrote that part down too. I like that a lot.
That was great.
Looking at them, staring at you.
As you slowly take out the line launcher and get ready.
You can like yank them too. You can like grab one of them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of
the wall. There's that one wall where you rip the wall down, and then the guys are like, "Oh, Batman, I can't wait for you to come over here. We're gonna get you." And then you're in this like long vertical column, and you're just like, and like shoot the three, and then they're just like, yeah, and they just fall 100 feet. They're definitely dead. Definitely dead.
Kevin Cooper writes in, he says, I just wanted to share this little bit towards the beginning of the second half between Cash and Batman that actually made me laugh out loud. Cash asks, what's up with the plants? And Batman says, it's complicated. And Cash says, let me guess, Poison Ivy broke out and is working with the Joker? And Batman goes, that's unimportant right now. He says,
that was exactly it.
Says Batman specifically went in that room to talk with Cash, but his Sogan's telling him what is happening, even though Cash guessed exactly what is happening. I love this game, says Kevin.
I was thinking about Gordon at the end of all of it, and like Cash is way more relevant to this story than Gordon is. Like Gordon didn't really do a whole lot, whereas like Cash keeps coming up again and again, and like is really like, okay, we're in the process of solving this. Whereas Gordon's just like, it's a hell of a night. You're like, what are you doing, Gordon? Like, why are you,
Didn't you leave? What are you doing?
Also, I like
you got on a boat.
I think it comes up a couple times. Maybe it's in the interviews or something though. But I like that little reminder every once in a while of like, hey, Cash. He's kind of like Captain Hook, isn't he?
Croc. All the Croc files mention him.
Right,
getting a taste of Cash for the first time, and he's like,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I want the rest.
Croc's always like, tick tock, tick tock. Remember Captain Hook? Remember that thing?
We all really like that Disney film. Except for that What Makes the Red Man Red song. Other than that, we really like that film. We'll save that for the deepest dive on Peter Pan, which I still want to do someday. Just cover every version of Peter Pan. I think that'd be really fun.
Ooh. Oh, wow.
No promises. Anyways, so
I watched Hook like last night.
Are you serious?
Yes, Ben. How did that happen? It's on Netflix right now.
Oh my God. Okay, you know what the best part of Hook is? Trick question.
There's like two of them. Yeah, there's like two.
Okay, a couple things I love. There's 1,000 things I love about Hook. Number one, obviously the soundtrack, absolutely the best.
Yeah, John Williams wrote it before he saw the movie. He hadn't read a script or anything. I think they hadn't even cast half the movie. And like Spielberg went to Williams and he's like, I need you to write this like tomorrow. And he's like, all right.
Just adventure.
So I got it. Hook's theme, and here's a little something for the little girl to sing. There you go.
Let's see. Number 1.5 for good things about Hook. The boo box is still very fun, and just like that little sneer. Yeah. Oh, there we go. But my other favorite thing is it's the weird moment, and I haven't watched the movie through for years and years and years, but this is vague memory. But like, it's that scene where Captain Hook is talking to Peter Pan's kids, and he just talks to them about the scariest thing you can say to a kid, which is your parents were so much happier before you were born.
Yeah, it's rough.
Because you just watched it, Jones. Refresh us on how that scene goes, because I remember just being like awesome and cold and perfect.
Yeah, because it's Smee's idea for him. He's like, you can make those kids love you, and he tries, and the daughter doesn't buy it. But then Jack, goes in hook, line, and sinker. But he like kneels down in front of the girl, and he's like, the truth is, before they had you, they were happier. She's like, that's not true. He's like, but that's the thing. He's like, yeah, that's harsh, but I'm not lying to you. I'm telling you like it is. He's like, they won't tell you what you need to do in life. And yeah.
And because I'm, with 3 parents, I won't ask for any more comments about that. But I just remember that being an awesome
rough
beat. Yeah. I'm just like, yeah, your parents had all the free time
I wanted
in the
to be
world.
a father. I'm like, I hate this movie, but God.
I remember, okay, this is basically the Hook podcast now, but I remember being so bummed out just reading interviews with Spielberg talking about Hook and how much he didn't like it and how he was let down by it. And he's like, specifically, he's like, those sets sucked, which is like such a bummer because it was like so fantastical as a kid. But imagine now it just looks a little rough.
It's very theatrical and very, I'm not a Hook fan. You can have me back on for that Peter Pan, maybe just for the Hook conversation.
Okay.
I can dig into that movie.
Okay, please.
Yeah,
because I love it. Because I love the story and I love everyone in it. Maggie Smith. Home run, Maggie Smith. Amazing in that movie. It's funny that Maggie Smith is playing like her age now. She's like, I'm 90. And you're like, you will be.
I don't understand how she's been 90 for the last 50 years. What is happening with her? Yeah. Anyways, that's Hook, everybody. I hope you enjoyed it.
Thanks for your questions.
It's like you talking you two to me right now.
Good app. So anyways, this section of the game, it's a lot of fights, and it's also a series of fights where they're basically like, hey, those tools you learned in the first half? Nice try, buddy. Not going to happen this time around. And it kind of gets set up in that first big kill room where you see the guard putting the explosive on the gargoyle. There's a fun beat where the Joker detonates it as he's putting it on just to murder that guy for no reason. But then that's a real FU to have it just be when you touch those gargoyles, they explode. Like that might have been the toughest room in the game for me. I don't know if it stood out for you guys too.
I liked getting turned on its head. It did take me a few tries though, because I wanted to do it well, But I like that. I like that when the rug gets pulled out from under you, and I think it was really effective there for sure.
Yeah, I couldn't remember if like every room from that point on was going to be like that, but I was relieved that it was just kind of a one-off thing. It was a nice new challenge. And I feel the same, where you kind of have a self-respect issue where it's like, I guess I could just do silent takedowns one after another, but that kind of gets kind of boring. So it's like, it's so satisfying when you can get like, you know, spray some stuff on a wall and blow it in on a guy, or and then I think one level later where you can get like, you do the triple shot and you can be like, ugh! And some guys over there like, whoa, what's this battering making all this noise over here? And then you just crumble the whole huge wall on him. That's pretty satisfying.
Does anybody have any other go-to strategies? Like I'm so stupid. I was just using like the exploding gel just for like a distraction and try and bring them over, and then just try and pick them off one by one. That was about it.
Yeah, explosive gel on the ceiling, and then throw a batarang. You get a couple people under the glass. Like you can take out like 3 people at once. That's
really
interesting.
Handy.
That's nice.
I also just love yoinking guys over the ledge. Anytime there's a wall between you and someone, you can see them. You can stun them.
Oh,
yeah.
And it's so fast. Yeah, it's so fast. Like they're walking by, you're pulling them over. It's probably the quickest way to take someone out. There's like the least amount of waiting,
and you can grab, if there's like 2 or 3 guys, you can grab one of them, and the other 2 like won't see you if you're like across the room. They'll be like, where'd that come from?
Yeah, what happened to that, my friend?
I just like to think also that Joker didn't. You can see Joker like in the first room Batman goes into. He's like, well, I'm gonna go up to this gargoyle, and Joker's like, oh, the gargoyles. Why didn't I? Yeah,
the one thing you didn't think of.
Freaking gargoyles they put in every room. Like, all right, and he gets a couple guys together. Like, here's what you're gonna do. You're gonna get these bombs. You're gonna go to that one room. You only have time for one room.
And you know that he was walking through the rest of the halls in Arkham, being like, "There's gargoyles everywhere. We only did the one room. Oh my god!"
Now I can't unsee it. Also, like, I'm surprised there wasn't one Spirit of Arkham entry that was just like, "As we build out the prison, I want every ceiling to be 100 feet tall."
Fighting the guards here. This line was repeated a lot, but it always made me laugh every time you're fighting guards when they go, "Get him on the ground and punch him in the face." It's like, that's your best strategy for Batman? Get a gun or something. Or just like whenever you punch somebody, the other one goes, "Don't let him hit you, you idiot." It's like they're like mocking each other for getting punched by Batman. Like, it's not unreasonable that you get hit by Batman.
Shout out overall to like the entire Arkham series, but they really kicked it off. And I think for me, it really became like a staple of this game that felt so different from other Batman games. But like these guys will talk and talk and talk and talk. Like there's so many times you come into a room and you're like just about to attack the guards. It's like, wait, what are they talking about? Like, and I love the confidence of just like, there's always the one guy's like, I'm not afraid of Batman. And like you can see who's talking. So you're just like, all right, buddy. Like we fly over to where that guy is. I'll grab him first.
Yeah,
I can't remember.
Ton of writing, way more than usual games.
Totally.
Even just third-person action games, not only just comic book games, but like giving them a voice. It's cool.
Yeah, I can't remember if it was the first half or the second, but the one that stood out for me was the one where there's a guy with a gun. He's like, "Oh yeah, Batman, he's never gonna take any," and he's like talking to some hostages, and the hostage is like egging him on, like, "Oh yeah, you think Batman's a big wuss, huh? Oh man." And you just kind of are standing behind him, and like, "Oh yeah, can't wait."
Just clenching your
there's
fist.
like 2 guys near the end where someone's like, "I got the strength of 10 men." He's like, "You're an idiot. We're both gonna die right now." Well, we're smart.
Yeah, there's so much guard personality, even just like little moments. Like they're debating, like, hey, what's it going to actually do to Gotham if we put this in the water supply? And I think at some point Joker's yelling at the guards and he's like, it's like you all don't even want mutant toxic babies rampaging through Gotham. Like, get to work, everybody. But then I think you might have mentioned this from earlier, Brian. I guess it was a different one because you're talking about the elevator shaft. But there's that room, which is another one that was challenging later on, where I blew up a wall. And the guards are like, hey, the damn wall disappeared. Like the fact that they recorded specific dialogue for this optional thing was just mind blowing. It was all just, extras that they didn't need to do to give these guards that much personality, but it's really effective.
That was cool. Yeah. I think one specifically was like, hey, we're poisoning all this water. Like my mom lives.
Yeah, that's right. Yes.
Nice.
Yeah. And the other guy's like, your mom sucks.
What's up with maybe it's different in the remaster, but I think in this one, like the guy with the mohawk, it's like a skin mohawk, right? It's like weird skin implants. Was I seeing that correctly?
I don't know what you're referencing. I don't know.
Okay, there's one like guard model that you fight over and over again. But anyways, Empiric Unicorn writes in, he says, it's funny how well the source material works in video game context. Like how having room after room with indoor gargoyles that allow for stealthy takedowns seems totally normal for a place like Arkham. What's your favorite game mechanic that feels natural simply because you're Batman?
Maybe it's the jump off something and just immediately just whoosh, put the cape out. And you can just glide.
And like no fall damage,
Yeah. Oh yeah, you jump off a huge thing and it just poofs out the last second. Obviously it gets used to a much greater degree in later games, but that was pretty fun.
Yeah. Aaron T replied to this comment on Patreon with a great suggestion, saying, I immediately thought of the cape stun move. Even if you don't think a giant cape being whipped at your face is enough to bewilder you for a few seconds, there's plenty of headcanon around Batman's gadgetry to explain it. The sheer weight of the cape might feel like a smack to the face. The possibilities are endless. I think that would stun me if someone just whipped a giant cape in my face. I'm like, what is happening? I can't use my knives anymore. I'm perplexed.
Well, it's one thing when I've probably put in my lifetime way too much thought into actually like, would this work? Like just it's for anything in Batman. Just like, this makes sense. Like, is that something that's like a style choice over something else? And like what I like about the cape, and I think just Batman in general, is like a lot of Batman strategy is like, is like, I'm just going to throw something at your head, and then you're going to block it and then you're done. Like all I needed was that in, and then you're unconscious 5 seconds later, it's over. And so it's not like, dear God, that giant bat is going to, kill me. It's like, what am I even looking at here? Like, where do I even, if I have a gun, like, what am I shooting at? Like, it's this slender guy just all of a sudden has a wingspan of like 8 feet, And so, just this idea of like, I'm going to punch this guy over here and just throw this huge black thing at your head. And then I didn't have to deal with you for 2 seconds, but that's all I need. And then I elbow you and you're out. Like, so I like that mechanic.
Yeah. They can't find Batman. Yeah. They're sometimes so skinny and stealthy. And when he jumps between those gargoyles, they just lose sight immediately. It's like, he's moving between 2 gargoyles. What's a guy to do?
Sometimes they'll track you. You can see them looking at you if you have detect mode on. So, but yeah, it's also way too easy to sneak away. Is he in this great? Probably not. I'm right underneath you, dude.
Josh Carmel submits a comment on Patreon saying, one of my favorite moments of this game is that last Scarecrow section intro. It actually got me with the fake out 10 years ago, and I will never forget it. With my fat PS3 dying twice already beforehand, I thought it happened again. But thankfully, it was just a ruse. And then getting to play a reverse version of the intro as Joker with Batman in the stretcher is just fantastic. And the joke...
10 out of 10. Chef kiss. Like best moment in the whole game.
It's
just so...
unbelievable.
So smart.
Yeah, and Josh...
Whoever had that idea... Was this a first for you, Hanson?
It's so stupid. I knew that Scarecrow had these weird psychedelic sequences and stuff, and I probably knew that they pulled from Eternal Darkness in this way for this game at some point, but I had forgotten. Like, it fully got me.
Same. Like when it first came out, even now, it took me a second to be like, oh, it's this moment. But like 100%, I was like, oh, what happened to my console? Did it crash? Like it totally worked on me 100%.
That's so crazy.
Yeah, I was having some issues with quick resume on Xbox, the new Xbox, and I was like, it's crashing again. No.
Yeah, Dragon Hunter here, he says he was so close to standing up and turning off his 360 because he assumed that it crashed. Yeah, it's just incredible. And then, Josh Carmel points out the other point, which is the joke hint to later on use the middle stick to dodge Joker's gunfire. That's the part that really got me then. When you're in the stretcher in first person, like this game plays with first person in a really interesting way. But when you're in the stretcher and then the Joker just shoots you, I didn't even read the joke prompt at first. I just assumed that I guess I did something wrong. This feels absolutely like a real game over. Like this entire sequence was so much better than I ever could have expected. I don't know. It's not like we were cavemen in 2009, but certainly it's like, this is so much smarter than I would have thought they would have done.
Unique,
yeah.
The reboot, again, it's very Eternal Darkness, like change the up in the volume and stuff.
Right.
Like the reboot ruse is so solid on its own. Like it's just like, wait, what's happening? Oh, you're like, you got me. And then like they keep going, like you drive by the sign and it's like warning, Batman escaping might be prisoners. And then like you get it, and then like Joker's driving the Batmobile instead. Then you get inside and like the doctor is now Crane, and all the good guys are going by the other end, like we're gonna die. They literally looked at every single part of that scene and they're like, what can we you know, like even just walking around as Joker, like is so much fun.
And specifically the part that kills me during that is Batman screaming for help that entire time. It's like, that is so weird to see Batman just be like, help me! Oh my God, help me!
Yeah.
John,
that was great. He sounds like Dan Castellaneta a little bit there.
John Skovic talking about the fake crash here. He says, the scariest thing the Batman game can do is make you think the Batman game is broken and you can't play it anymore.
Sure.
They really earn you being upset. That's like, I want to keep going.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love that too. That it's like Batman busting out of his own grave as he pops up. Here's
maybe seeing all the screaming versions like on the way there. He's like doing
Joseph Dowdy writes
there's
in,
that one that's just eating a rat.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Joseph Dowdy says, was anyone else disturbed by Batman gnawing on a rat?
Yeah.
That was insane. And like, it's so amazing that a character as old as Batman, you can still have things that surprise you. Like,
yep.
I don't know what that is. That's such a weird choice. Just have weird feral Batman, but that's something I've never seen before. That's incredible.
Like legit scary. Like
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of Batman movies and TV shows and play a lot of Batman video games. And it's like, I can probably count on both hands, like the number of times I've been like scared, like actually like, whoa, you know, this is disturbing and not just like, fun villain. Yay. You know, like, and that was, this game definitely hits points of depravity. That's like, I don't want to stay there for too long, but that this game can do that kind of stuff. We touched on this last time, that it's fun that Deanie's like, these were all ideas I had. That, you know, WB and Fox was like, no.
I've wanted to get Batman eating a rat for years. Finally, my time to shine.
There's some cell you can buy for hundreds of thousands of dollars. So there's some thrown out scene of the animated series. Like,
in that sequence, I have written down in my notes, but I don't remember when it happens. But can you die when you're playing as the Joker briefly?
I don't think so.
Because like I have in my notes that I died, and actually Batman is the character that comes up and talks to you.
Oh, that's cool. If
which is really cool. But
neat.
now I'm like thinking, I was like, I don't remember dying as the Joker, but it definitely happened because I remember being like thinking it was really cool.
Yeah, I mean, you just
Did
after
you
that gunshot.
play the Joker in the challenge mode or something? Maybe.
Oh, you know what? I'm probably conflating that. You're probably right. Yeah, because I did go back and play a little bit of the Joker challenge mode. You know what? Yeah, that's what it was, which is also cool. But it would have been even cooler if it was in that sequence.
Right. What do
That would have been cool. He'd be like, I killed you. I didn't mean. He's already still crazy.
What?
I did the same thing. I had Aaron Cash for some reason like taunt me as the Joker. It's like, oh, Joker, you couldn't get it done. You know, like,
oh, that's
kind of interesting. They used him.
Yeah. What do you think it says about Batman that this is his fear? Like that these visions are his worst case scenario? Is it just as simple as he's scared of dying? He's scared of...
No, I think he's scared of failure. I think he's scared of not winning.
Wouldn't the vision then be like, you know, Joker running through Gotham and being like, I'm the mayor now. I'm going to torture these innocents. Like the fact that
I think it's a little bit of that. I think it's also perception. Like this idea, the whole concept that like what you are seeing is not what's happening, because then therefore Batman can't win. Then he's like, now I can't actually do the job because I don't see what's actually being seen. I think like one of the things that stresses Batman out in that section so much is not even them knowing that he's Bruce Wayne, or that is that like, I'm wasting time right now. Like I am somewhere right now talking to myself and that's not helping anybody, you know? So he's like, how long am I going to have to deal with this? You know, like how long am I going to be stuck here? I can imagine literally him going through those like run around Scarecrow stealth sections, just being like, you know, like this is valuable time right now. Poison Ivy's, you know, taking out more hallways and, you know, like, yeah, Oracle's probably screaming at me and like, I'm, you know, I hope I'm not making a fool of myself. You know, it's like
I'm drooling on myself.
Yeah.
I think the way I took it was like his greatest fear was that maybe he's the insane one, and
right?
All the Arkham inmates are the sane ones, and
I'm sure even Gordon thinks that. I mean, Gordon's like, you know, this guy's effective, but like, when's that going to stop? You know, at what point am I going to have to apologize for stuff that he does? You know, and so
yeah, and that's kind of like the eating the rat thing. Just like he's he's gone too far. He's just more animal than man at this point. He can't control his instincts, that type of thing is probably tapping.
He's like, I can't believe I ate rats. Like, what, Batman? Like, nothing. Don't say that out loud.
Let's not talk about it. Ryan Grealish points out, he says, during the second Scarecrow sequence, I noticed the prisoner Batman aren't wearing capes. I never thought anything of this until the last discussion, realizing that some guy spent 2 years making the cape look cool. He must have passed on the opportunity to make a Batman eating a rat cape. Also, he says, props to Kyle. His selection of the line launcher to divide the game in two was only 20 minutes off from my exact halfway mark. So well done, Kyle.
Nice.
That was it.
I thought that was spot. Choice. That was a really, really good, a good button to like, it's not, you wouldn't have missed it. It's not like, I really got to pay attention for that line launcher. It's very clearly like, and I'm done.
Right.
Hey, Batwing literally breaks through the ceiling.
Yeah, yeah, it's dramatic.
Yeah. That Scarecrow fight, I now see why I got so many comments in the first half with people being like, I've had enough of these Bane-like enemies. And I was like, no, I think they're fine so far. But when I got to the point where in the Scarecrow fight, it's like, and now a skeleton Bane comes out. I'm like, all right, I've had enough of these at this point. They're just going to keep on coming. But it's still,
I really did like it was not a gameplay thing, but just a cutscene moment of like how many times he's pricked Batman with those things, and he's like, how are you okay right now? And he just keeps like stabbing him in the muscles. It's like, no, dude, he's Batman. He's got it.
It's just willpower over drugs. That's the idea, man. Wriggles submits a comment on Patreon. He says, hey, Ben and the Bartmans. Hello. He says, I want to talk Scarecrow. I love how when you find his hideout, you realize the asylum is his domain. All of the pictures of Batman and footage from the cameras make Scarecrow a more calculated villain instead of the stumbled upon villain in the asylum. While Joker was the king of the castle, Scarecrow was the monster in the walls. This leads into my favorite small detail. When you're about to do a Scarecrow segment, Batman coughs. It isn't referenced in any way, but it's a cool detail that Scarecrow already got into Batman.
Yeah,
that's really good.
Wow, I missed that.
That was really cool. That the little layer was like underneath the elevators,
right?
And like it was all built out, and there's all these like surveillance photos of Batman walking around, and it was cool that the way they kind of rolled it out after you were totally done with him.
Yeah. By the way, I mean Leafeon in the Backstage Pass watching us live. He's very into that theme of Batman not trusting himself and points out that that's why Arkham Knight has the best story of the trilogy, he says, because so much of that game is about Batman doubting himself and his worst fears and all that stuff.
It's also nice, too, because it's like Ivy's trying to take over the island. She's very proud when it happens. This island's mine, and then like Joker wants to make a bunch of Titans and throw them out into the city and poison everybody. And like the moment like Batman gets gassed, like Scarecrow's like, I won. He's like, this is gonna be great. I get to watch this guy go nuts. Like I get to have a victory over Batman that no one else gets. Like none of you get to do that. All of you have to. You're forcing a confrontation. Whereas like I just get to watch this guy. I get to prove that I'm still better than him. Like he bests Riddler, and you can hear it. You can sense Riddler being really frustrated. But like, even when you get Scarecrow at the end, Scarecrow's still like, I got you.
Yeah. What do you think Scarecrow's doing? Well, Batman's just tripping out, stumbling around in LSD or whatever. Is Scarecrow just like watching him like, heh.
Yeah, I wonder if that's kind of why that's represented, is he feels Scarecrow's gaze upon him.
Of
like,
course.
So like that's what he's trying to avoid. It's a little.
I think that makes sense. Yeah, I'll go with that. But then
I'm forgiving their overused stealth mechanics far too much in my actual real world realization of that. But
yeah, I like in those sequences though, you still have to use your gadgets every once in a while. That's cool that it's not just a simplistic version. It's like, oh, okay, I'm still a little bit of problem solving happening here. But that
was cool, and it was also the platforming. I thought transitioned really well. Like even though you're at a totally different perspective, like it still felt pretty good, and not foreign from your standard behind the back controls.
Yeah, definitely. But then Scarecrow was trying to also poison the water supply, right? Like he's about to drop the toxins into the water before Killer Croc attacked him.
I think that's his backup against the wall. I don't know if that was
that's not his plan. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. What do you guys think? I don't know.
Yeah, like I got to get out of the situation, and I can make Batman try to go after this bag instead of me.
Okay, gotcha. Charles Bean submits a comment on Patreon. He says, what did Croc do to deserve such a cool lair as a prisoner? Special treatment much, says Charles. I didn't.
Big.
Well, was that his full lair? I took it as like he was in some other place, but then he busted out and into that sewer, or is that?
I think that's where they keep him. But I mean, those are just the sewers. Like I don't think they built that for him. I think that's just the sewers.
But that's his standard go-to spot, like in the prison. Okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if you busted
drop him
through.
in there.
Yeah, that's a lot of faith.
They just throw some meat in there every once in a while. And
Yeah, forget about him.
Do your thing, buddy.
Please don't look for the exit of these sewers anywhere, please.
Set up some wooden platforms,
So we can feed
He can,
you?
yeah. I mean, he can obviously bust through all the gates. So it does beg the question, like, why didn't he just leave?
Well, he has the collar, right? Is the thing. I guess that keeps him
the
there.
collar.
Yeah.
Please don't forget
And there is kind of that one big door that leads in and out that he finally gets through. It's like this hallway that ends this just gigantic metal bank vault door.
Right.
Like I think that's what he can't get past. But
I love seeing that he could get through those little gates. That was like a very cool moment when he's chasing you and it's like, all right, well, he'll stop here. Okay, nope, they actually modeled that. That's cool. He can just bust through all this stuff. Pelican Man says, I can't quite explain why, but the slow dripping of water droplets when you're in Killer Croc's lair is maybe the single scariest thing I've ever experienced in a video game. The sound design is unbelievable, with all the other effects, ambience, and music we've gotten used to being turned off completely, leaving us just with the dread of the dripping. That's a very good specific note. Matt Rogers.
Kyle, you didn't like this boss fight. I want to get to that.
Yeah.
I don't. I think it's the weakest part of the game. I was actually thought everyone would be on board with me, but like I don't like slowly walking across the boards. I think it's really sort of it's a nice animation when he jumps out of the water, but to just kind of flick a batarang at him is very anticlimactic. And then when he does splash you, it's just such an awkward animation of Batman like bouncing up and down on top of the wooden planks. It just grinds things to a halt to me. Like it just slows everything down. It's the part of the game I was like not looking forward to. And then while I was actively playing it, I was like, yeah, I don't like this. And I was eager to get past it.
At least like it's not a maze.
Hard.
It's pretty simplistic to navigate that thing. I could see that just being like, here's our lost woods, have fun. But like, yeah, it wasn't that long.
And then I was like, oh, well, you use the line launcher here. That's kind of fun. It's like kind of speeds you up. It's like a puzzle. You don't put your feet on the ground, but that doesn't really speed things up at all. It kind of screws you up. I don't know. I think Croc looks awesome, but like this fight to me, like I said, I think it's the weakest part of the game. I don't know if you guys feel similarly or not.
I don't think so.
I think the repetitive Titan fights kind of slow it down like a little bit more once you get used to those things. I just love the like attempt, I guess, because it sets him up like Jaws, like it sets up this idea that like, there are some villains that you probably should just avoid. It's like, just don't, just get away from it because it's not, you're not necessarily going to defeat this thing. And you get that vibe from the guards as well when he like goes down. They keep telling you you're not going to like where this is, like it's in Croc's lair. And I've seen like, as much as I love the animated series, like he's only about like 6'5", like he's buff, but he's definitely much more like animalistic. Whereas this one's like, this guy could rip, half of a person just by like putting in his mouth and pulling, the legs out.
Yeah.
So I like the charge. I like the moments. It's like you bring up a good point, Kyle. It's like the moments where Croc's not there are almost better than the moments where he is. It's like just the dread of like, oh, what was that sound? Oh, is he coming? When he actually does show up.
Yeah.
Just knock him out.
Evan Sonic here. He says, hello, Ben, Kyle, Brian, and Brandon. I wanted to talk about my favorite part of the game. F you, Kyle. He says, no. He says the sewer with Killer Croc. It's such a satisfying section with a little bit, maybe a lot of creepy scariness. I especially love the batarangs used to knock Croc back into the water. It just feels great. But forget all that. How did Batman know to put the explosive gel on the floor when he entered the sewer? Just because he's Batman? Doesn't make any sense. He's
Batman.
He's thinking ahead. It's weird that
he's down there. The last time he was down there, he was like, "This floor seems weak."
Yeah, and just to complain a little bit more, the sort of Crash Bandicoot sequence is, I don't know. Like,
please, Croc Bandicoot.
You can't really see what's coming ahead of you. I don't know. I just don't love it. I still like it. It's still better than most boss fights in most games.
Especially better than most
like
sewer
around
sections.
it. I'm like, right.
Like compared to sewers in any other game, it's top tier sewer.
Yeah, I guess I agree that it was kind of a nice change of pace from those same Titan bosses over and over again. Was it the most exciting thing is like the big checkpoints where just you going like, put some goop in up.
Index finger smearing it in.
Yeah, that was a little silly, but
I can hear Sefton Hill being like, let's make sure we get that camera in really close so the player can see how Batman is scooping it with his finger very delicately.
Loves the goop.
He needs a Batman branded spoon, I think. That would have gotten him a lot farther.
Rory Sublet, he says, I think the boss battles are Arkham Asylum's weakest part, but the Croc encounter is my favorite, simply because of the tension it can build. Also, I really love at the end when Croc says, you can't run from me, and then the game replies by telling you, hold A to run. It's perfect. Matt Rogers, he says, maybe I'm just a scaredy cat, but I thought that this section was scarier than anything in Resident Evil 7 specifically. Interesting comparison, but yeah, so it worked for a lot of people here. Sandshrew, I'm glad
they loved it.
Sandshrew says the arm reaching out of the water when you use the line launcher is icing on the cake. It's one of the best sewer sections ever. Yeah, that line launcher moment was so fun. Aaron T submits a comment here saying, hello, MinnMates. I love this game, but I found the second half to be much weaker than I remembered it being. The emphasis on boss fights really showcased some of the elements that felt missing from the game in relation to what came after it. While having to swap between the line launcher and Batarang during the Killer Croc section, all I could think about was how much I wish this game had the standard radial weapon wheel that slows down time when you pull it up. Did other games have this feature at the time? Yeah.
Yeah, Night, which I just happened to play, you just press up on the D-pad and it does pause things so you can select it. I always have trouble selecting the diagonal things in this in City. It's like really hard.
Yeah.
I remember Far Cry always had the radial menu.
Yeah, Resistance.
But that's a shooter, so
I think like Resistance 1 and 3 had the wheel, but I don't know if it slowed down time. But Brendan Regan has a great comment. He says, Killer Croc put up a good performance, but I think we can all see through his charade. He was definitely on the side of justice the entire time. He stopped Scarecrow from poisoning the water supply, was growing the plant that was used for the antidote in his lair, and opened up pathways to help Batman navigate his lair. To help sell his bad guy shtick, he made it look like he was attacking Batman, but it's obvious there's no real danger as he clearly telegraphed his moves and gave plenty of time to react.
Yeah.
Through his valiant actions, Croc proved that he is the true hero Arkham deserves, but not the one it needs right now.
I'll buy it.
Yeah.
That's kind of a cool take on it.
Yeah, we all know.
Also, he looks a little bit like King K. Rool in this.
Yeah, so he's a cool guy. That voice, I feel like, could be a little bit scarier. Is that the animated series voice?
No, I didn't have time today to do it, but I wanted to go to IMDb and just kind of like give credit to the cast, you know.
Yeah.
Here, I'll go on to the next question. I'll find out.
Well, the next one's not Croc related, but I'm just curious. The music when he jumps out of the water is like, let's play a little clip of that. I've got it queued up here. It's like just the Jaws theme on steroids here every time he pops out. It's just, you hear it so much.
A lot of timpani in that.
Yeah. Like you guys know the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy movie, where it keeps zooming it keeps zooming out and out and out.
Right.
Musical sting until it's like showing the whole galaxy. It's like that.
Shout out one of literally the VO god, Mr. Steve Bloom.
Oh, really?
Oh,
interesting.
Millions of things.
Yeah,
just doing. He was Masked Guard number 2, Ian Kennedy and Jordan Fraser. Don't recall those two.
Interesting.
Like scientists or something.
Yeah. Victor Vam writes in, he says, it's cool seeing Batman's suit and cape show damage throughout the game, but how is he still able to glide with a hole in his cape? It's just like the edges and stuff, right?
It's all about the frame.
Yeah.
Is it consistent? Like, does it damage the same for everybody? Were there like 2 little holes on the right for everybody, or was it? I don't know. It's kind of a specific thing. I know.
I'm sure it is. Yeah. But this is the deepest dive. And I feel like I let everybody watching this or listening to this down by not trying to track, like, when are those damage indicators happening? When is Batman getting the little scar? When is each tear? Like, what fight is doing what damage? I'd love to see that super nerdy breakdown just to figure out when the change happens here.
It's a thing in video games that, like, isn't done enough that I love, which is like the progression of sort of just how much of a toll the whole adventure is taking on you. Like, it's something that Prince of Persia Sands of Time does really well, where like over the course of the adventure you change your outfit because you're like ripping off articles of clothing or losing them in fights, and like it does it really well here, where it's just like by the end of the game you're like, man, that was a night, dude. Like that was hard. Kyle,
you are in lockstep, baby, with Lachlan Belford. Don't forget that name. He says, one of my favorite parts of the Arkham games is how everything happens in real time. like the gradual wear and tear on Batman's suit. The first game I remember playing that did something like this was Prince of Persia: Sands of Time. Do you think that Prince of Persia might have been the direct inspiration for the damage to Batman's suit? Probably not. Maybe
I don't know.
though.
They seem to have like been okay with, taking inspiration from things like, Metroid and BioShock and what things that work in other games, like, hey, let's use it here.
Yeah.
It could be, or it could just been a total coincidence. You never know.
But also, if that guy is spending 2 years focused on just the cape physics, you think one of those days he'd be like, hey, you know what'd be cool is if it was frayed a little bit by the end of this game.
Speaking of Batman's costume, did you guys check out his special armored costume that you unlock and play in the challenge mode?
Yeah, a little bit. It seems all right. Compared to all the other costumes in the series, though, it's just like, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's a little Zack Snyder's Justice League Batman, isn't it?
Bit too much?
But it would have been cool. Like, I usually play these games pretty early when they first come out, so I never really had any of the alternate costumes, and I was hoping like, oh yeah, I know a lot of the other games have tons of alternate costumes you can try out. I'm going to play with a weird costume this time, and I'm like, oh yeah, I guess that just isn't a thing in this first one.
Yeah, they hadn't quite gotten there yet. I loved this little section of the game where you're in the Batcave, processing the antidote, all that fun stuff. And then you just fly out. And it's like what I mentioned before, where you can see the city in the backdrop. And it's just like, it's the first time I feel like where you just have a little bit of downtime. The music's lighter, a little more ambient. You just get that long glide. And that's when it really soaks into like, oh, this cape is getting some wear and tear here, baby.
Yeah.
Even though like
it did feel weird to climb the rocks like outside, but it was cool. Like it felt different, and it was just like it wasn't like a puzzle solving or anything. It was just like, yeah, here's a moment where it feels a little different,
Yeah, I think it probably is the area where maybe visually has aged the worst, because those rocks are just like, here's a completely flat ledge with some grass on top or a rock. It's just a little old in that aspect. Jones, did you have other voice actors to shout out?
Yeah. Well, we can go through the cast at the end. I mean, we're just talking about plot stuff. This could be. I was going to save it for like, hey, any last things you want to bring up?
No, to go right now.
Interesting that Scarecrow didn't come back, and I'm looking up Arkham City, and Scarecrow's not in it. I guess I remember. I thought Scarecrow was in every game.
He's a big part of at least the beginning of Night. He's actually like,
okay. Who played him in Arkham
the big
Knight,
bad.
Scarecrow is featured in Arkham City as the kind of secret Easter egg of that game that points towards Arkham Knight.
So maybe maybe they didn't.
There was like
a Mad Hatter
a
kind
boat
of
or something.
Scarecrow role in City.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there was like a weird boat that had like some dead body and a note from Scarecrow or something in it, and that was somehow teasing Arkham Knight.
Oh, John. No. Oh, whoa! What a recast. That's right. Scarecrow's really, really big at Night, and he's played by John Noble, who is in Fringe. He's like the goofy scientist guy that like they have to get to do everything. He's like one of the main cast guys in that. John Noble is the sitting on the throne of Gondor. He's the guy that like lights himself on fire, like jumps off
really?
the top of Gondor, who's like eating the like cherries or whatever. And
yeah. Oh, weird. That's a specific choice.
Wally Wingert played the Riddler, and he's played the Riddler in a bunch of other stuff. He's played the Riddler in Batman Return of the Caped Crusaders, like Batman Arkham Underworld, Batman and Two-Face. He was also King Tut.
Yeah. I was just saying I love his Riddler. Like, I just like how, I don't know, there's just something about him that's really like, I just want to punch that guy.
He's just a little
like that's perfect for Riddler,
He's smart, but he's a jerk. Like you believe that he put all that stuff together, but he's also like, get over yourself. Right. Tasia Valenza, which is a name I don't recognize, played Poison Ivy, and she came back in all of the other Arkhams, so that's her the whole time. She's Spider-Woman in Ultimate Alliance. Shout out to Fred Tatasciore, who is Bane. Fred Tatasciore is in every movie you have ever seen in your entire life. Oh, yeah. You got to play the Fred Tatasciore game. It's Tatasciore. Whenever you're done with anything, and it's like additional voices, just that would like, all right, Tatasciore. Yep, there he is. Like he's just he is one of the richest voice actors ever, and it's just a name that nobody knows because he's not like a Hamill or Conrad. He's not somebody that like, oh, he always gets the leads. He's always the Hulk. He is always the Hulk. They just get the Hulk guy. Who's this? It's like, oh, it's for Tedashore.
Yeah.
And so he's Bane. He's just always like the big buff dudes.
Yeah, he's in Gears of War. I forget who he plays exactly in Gears of War.
And he's just Santa Claus, man. He's just a really nice, goofy guy. He's always fun. Like when I we talk to him at Comic-Con, he's always just like, he's a big, big energy, big fun guy.
Hugs you till he breaks your ribs.
Yep.
Yeah, he must be frustrated. Like, why is Troy Baker getting all this attention? Like, he's been in so many more things. Like, why is he not a more common name? Is it just the spelling on the last name is throwing everybody off? If his name was Fred Truck, people would be more on board with him.
Troy Baker did play Joel in The Last of Us. It's a pretty compelling character.
He doesn't get those grounded roles. He always gets really big, larger than life, enemies, and so it's not, not the stuff that you recall. But that's like the main rogues gallery.
Yeah. This section of the story, you're going around disabling 3 pumps. It kind of feels like an extension of kind of save the 3 doctors. Where here you just got to disable the 3 pumps, go around, a bunch more kill rooms. Some of them are pretty tricky. There's that one area where you're in like a really small space, and then Joker's like, hey, and now here's another little Baneling thrown in there along with the guys. That was kind of cool. Where it's like the 3 doors, you know what I'm talking about, and they're all locked off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like a game show.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was a tight little space for one of the, usually you can run pretty far away from those guys. So
right. Yeah,
they do that ground punch and you're really got to get out of there.
Yeah. And whenever they pick up a body and throw it, it's always faster than I think it's going to be. I'm just watching. I'm like, all right, I got you, buddy. And then it hits me so many times. Harrison Holt McHale here. He says, at the beginning of the game, Batman is defending a fairly stable Arkham Asylum from Joker's invasion of intensive treatment. For instance, Arkham East is a safe area at the beginning of the game with posted guards at every door. But eventually, Arkham East is overrun. The adding in the insane prisoners as well as Ivy's plants destroying most of the island, including the Batcave, means that relationship completely changes. It feels like Batman and Joker gradually swap places, with Joker trying to protect his domain from the invasion of Batman. I think this is a major reason why I enjoy Arkham Asylum's take on Metroidvania so much. Love and respect. Thanks, Harrison. Just the overall transformation of the island. It's pretty incredible. That's a great way of putting it. In the beginning, it's all right, don't let Joker infest this thing. And then by the end, it's Joker like, okay, don't let Batman infest my little island.
Yeah. I made a comment last week where I said, like, I like that Joker, it doesn't seem like he expects his minions to like stop Batman.
Yeah.
It seems like he's kind of letting all this stuff play out. And we kind of joked at that earlier, like the guys that are like building his like face, for around the visitor center for the end. And like this sense of this, like, no, the best part's later, and you got to wonder, like, how excited Joker is, going up to like, oh, he's almost caught me. Yay, tonight's the night we're going to do this. Like he's made so many plans and he's so excited to see all that come together that it like they do a good job of you can kind of see when Joker starts to crack and be like, wait, stop. Right. It was fun before when your dad was amused, but now actually stop. Don't do that. Batman's just like, no, I'm never going to let you win.
That's such a good
line.
line.
Like really hard now.
Yeah.
Jason Greer submits a comment saying, knowing I was about to enter the final boss fight, I went around the island to get as many collectibles as I could to max out Batman's skills and stats. So I had to chuckle at the thought that in universe, the Joker is sitting there holding that TV for hours while blowing through this massive pile of fireworks, screaming at his henchmen, "What is taking him so long?"
Yeah, it's worth it.
Yeah. Yeah, just imagine how much of Joker's time is spent setting up traps that just never get triggered. Just like, okay, but maybe he'll go this way, so I have this prepared for that, just in case.
So like you see the guys building them out, you see the guys prepping the bomb. Like there's the game is kind of aware of that. I like that you slowly see these things come together. Like the teeth, which just do nothing. Like they don't stop Batman in any way. Like it's just
funny if they did. Also, I think
oh, go ahead, Hanson.
This is a very specific comment. The laughter of the teeth, I think Joker has that laugh later on in the game, but it sounds so much like a very specific reference in Spyro 1. The enemies that steal your eggs and run and they go, nah, 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 nah. It's ingrained in my soul because they're so frustrating trying to track down Spyro 1, but it feels so much like Joker's laugh for the teeth. Anyways, Kyle, a more important point.
Oh, I was just going to talk about like the hallway of applauding bad guys, sort of the Neon Genesis Evangelion moment of everyone applauding for you for making it to the end.
Yeah.
Did you guys fight them or did you just kind of walk through? I fought them and beat them all up, but can you walk through and just bypass them?
Yep.
I think if you do you? I thought if you tried the door, I punched the first guy. Yeah.
There was an achievement for defeating all of them, so I was like, wow.
Okay.
Sorry, guys.
When I went back to that playthrough and the guy put 3 of those bombs because they don't react when you just like on the floor. So you put them like right in a row right in the middle of the room and like took them all out.
I wish I would have done that. I
missed opportunity.
I saw the achievement and went for it as well, but I was like, yeah, I should be able to double this and get the 40 hits achievement, no problem. And no, I was not good enough to do that. But I did beat them up.
You.
Yeah,
it's cool though, because like it could force you to do kind of that could have been like a pain in the ass fight for a lot of people, but it's nice that people have the option to just kind of skip the whole thing and just go straight to the end boss.
Yeah, so I did the first round on the outside. I beat those guys up. But then on the inside, I just slowly marched on through. Zach Eink here, he points out that's like the most enemies you ever have to fight in one spot if you choose to fight them in the hallway. And he said it reminded him of like Netflix's, Netflix Daredevil's hallway fight scene.
Sure. Well,
right?
Not to sneak ahead, but that's why, like, when you fight the things in front of Joker in that one scene, I'm like, what is this? Like, this is what a weird thing for Joker to be like, oh yeah, more guys. Like, right. What? It's like, because he really seems like he thinks that's gonna work, and like and so it makes that tiny room like. And the music that they play is actually super epic. Like a whole choir comes in, and it's like, "Ooh, is this the end? Like, am I going to literally go through this door and it's going to be like one little tiny scene and then we're done?" Because it kind of seems like it'd be fun. Like, I don't know. Like, it's just great about those challenge rooms. Like, it would be neat if there was a moment where, like you were saying, it's the most people you fight in a tight space. If Joker's literally just like, okay, this is literally everyone I have left. Like, this is literally like, you've made it through everybody. I wonder if you could take like 65 guys, if I could just keep go, keep running in, like
here comes
just have a pile of people at the end. Like, it's like, like I'm trying to think of like the movies where it's literally like the main character. Oh, like the Game of Thrones, where it's like, like in the middle of this crowd, pull himself out of the top of it.
And that's how they kill Batman. They suffocate him.
Flashing in the big pile, kind of.
Robert Cassidy mentions that he loves the idea that, you can see the inmates building that giant wooden Joker face throughout the game. That's such a good little...
Oh, one fun point, again, with the detective vision, which is so fun that you see stuff, because in the like the Doom 3 room where like he's like, this door, and they all just kind of bum rush you. You're in like an octagon. And if you put on detective vision, you can see the monsters drop into those rooms. Like, you can see them above you.
Oh, really?
You can see them drop in, and then one of them like opens up the door. And like, I imagine if you were developing a game and you didn't have detective vision, it's like, well, I'm not going to spawn that character until like right before it appears. It's just cool in this game. They got to account for that. And so it's like, when you hear it thud on the other side of that wall, like, it's actually there in space. It's cool.
That's so fun. I'd have to imagine too. I don't think we talked about this last week, but I have to imagine that one of the reasons they put skeletons in those Scarecrow sequences is just because, like, well, they had to model all these skeletons for the detective vision. So we have that. We might as well use that in some cool creative way.
Oh. Yeah,
I spotted Harley's. I was like, "Who the hell is that?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's Harley." And she was like, before I fought her last week, she's like, I'm like, "There's one skeleton with like his hands on its hip." And I'm like, "Who's that?" Oh, yeah, one of the rare women in this game.
Yeah. Her, by the way, her walk. It's a very specific thing, but in the Scarecrow sequence, when you're strapped in and all that stuff and walking around as Joker, like Harley's walk in front of you, it's the weirdest animation. It's not like sexy walk, which you think they try and give her. It's just like this weird kind of like exaggerated movement. I don't understand what they're going for.
Well, we have different ideas of what's sexy.
You're right. A bow-legged strut down a hallway is pretty sweet.
Yeah, I was.
Brady Easter, he likes the fact that he says multiple NPCs, like Aaron Cash, for example, will comment on Joker's fireworks if you talk to them before heading to the final fight, which is very cool.
Oh, that's funny.
I wonder what they say.
I have 2 extra little VO things.
Oh, hang on.
Sorry.
You will love the second half of Brady Easter's comment. He says, also, I want to take a quick moment to thank Brandon Jones. My love for gaming and now my kids' love for it can be traced back to my college roommate introducing me to a site called Game Trailers. I've been enjoying everything you do for well over a decade now, and I can't thank you enough, not only for the content you create, but the communities that have grown up around you and the other outlets like MinnMax that I've found by embracing this awesome hobby that you introduced me to.
Oh, you killed him.
You're awesome. Thank you, Brandon Jones.
That's really good to hear, because I take credit for MinnMax all the time.
That phone call was very important.
That hallway of applauding soldiers was for you, man.
Oh my God. But yes, your voice actors.
Thank you, though. I mentioned, I was like, what? Tom Kane plays the Spirit of Arkham and Quincy Sharp. And like we learn, I forgot, like at the end, that if you follow all the Spirit of Arkham stuff, like, okay, I'll give you that. He shouldn't be Gordon, but I'll give you this one. Did you know it was me? Like, I did, because it's the same exact
That one was so obvious to me, even in the past and now this time too, because of the voice. I was like, was this supposed to be a mystery? I thought this was him.
It's a weird, yeah.
Wait, yeah. I didn't do that. What is this?
If you follow all of the Spirit of Arkham stuff, it's revealed that Quincy Sharp is like possessed by Amadeus Arkham.
What?
Or at least believes he's possessed, you know.
Right. Okay. So if you find it, if you get back to where you left Sharp, he like drew Batman a bunch of times on the ground and is like, Batman. You know,
oh, weird.
Like, he's also nutballs.
But I went to his office because it was like, the last clue you get is like, can you figure out who I am, Batman? And I was like, yeah, you're Quincy Sharp. Well, I'm going to go check out your office. And then I was like, oh, wait, I left him at that other place where Clayface. Okay.
Yeah, and then 20 minutes later, you finally went to... It's like you can finally go through all the stuff to get back there.
Exactly, yeah.
And some of it, you know, some of Arkham stuff really mesh well with the scene that you're going through. And like there's something like we joked about, you know, like why are these people recording stuff in some games like Doom or, you know, like BioShock and like, but when it works, like when you actually like are physically moving independently of a cutscene through a space and hearing somebody talking about the space that you're in, like it when it works really well. It can add like a whole extra layer that like you just can't get if the game is like stop and watch this, you're like, okay.
Right.
But if you're able to kind of diegetically like apply that stuff, it can work, be chilling.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a ghost. And I'm sorry. And Adrienne Barbeau played Gretchen Whistler, who's the doctor talking to Croc in his recordings. And Adrienne Barbeau was in Swamp Thing and Escape from New York. She's like the sexy gal from Escape from New York. It's like a classic like B-movie horror actress.
Yeah. Weird.
Plays this one random doctor in Arkham Asylum.
That's bizarre. Huh. Yeah. Mitchell O'Brien submits a comment on Patreon saying, as much as I love the Joker and Mark Hamill in this game, why do they have to go and give him a generic, I want to create an army of super soldiers goal here? It's easily the most un-Joker thing I think I've seen in recent memory and doesn't fit the character at all. At least they seem to learn their lesson for future entries.
It's new.
Yeah.
I guess he's just, I don't know. I just never took that at face value. It was just a way of him to mess with Batman to me. And like, maybe that's me like in my own head canon. It's funny. I really liked the ending. I thought it was cool to get this like this crazy monstrous design for Joker. I like that Batman almost kind of goes monstery. I like the fight. I think it's like fun. And it wasn't until like after the fact, after the couple weeks after the game came out when everyone had beaten it, that I started to get those murmurings of like that ending though, huh? Like it kind of took me off guard. Like I liked it. I liked the big scary Joker. But yeah, maybe I'm the weirdo. I didn't like Croc, and everyone liked Croc, so who am I?
Yeah, I think you're a weirdo. Yeah, a lot of people.
I need that take though, Kyle. It's nice.
That's nice.
To me, I have like this division in my brain of like the people Batman beats up and the people he tries to outsmart, and like Joker's just in the other side, you know. So it's like it was strange for Joker, like at last I can punch you. It's like, well, you know, it didn't seem like Joker's like end goal. It would have been fun maybe if like it accidentally happened, you know, if Joker was like, you know, like trying to hit someone else and shot himself and was like, oh well.
Yeah, and it was kind of like scared of his own power. Fine, like, yeah, that would be so much cooler. Yeah. Mark,
but I love the design. I mean, I'm a sucker for any, you know, like I think they've done that in toys before. I remember there actually being a toy line that was like everyone's Bane, you know, or like there was some design where it was like, what if everyone roided out, you know? And so like, but I've seen like Buff Joker before, and like I'm always down for a Joker redesign. So that was he is very eye catching. It's a very creepy looking thing.
Yeah, Travis.
Yeah, I guess what I do agree that would be the smart way to do it if it was an accident. But I guess the way they kind of frame it is like, this is a way in the end to tempt Batman to, you know, take steroids and, you know, compromise his values. Like that's always been his main thing. Is like, okay, I'm going to get Batman to throw all of his principles out, and this is the way to do it. And plus the players are really tempted too, because it's like, oh man, we could have like crazy Hulk Batman versus crazy Hulk Joker, and that'd be an awesome fight. Like how tempting that would be. And then Batman's like, no, player. I gotta do it legit.
Yeah, he doesn't shoot Batman. He shoots Gordon, but Batman takes the shot. which makes me think of two things. One, he probably totally knew that was going to happen, but he was like, haha, like he's not surprised when it happens. He's like, yeah, you know. But like, I am also bummed that like we don't get this like Bane monster with a tie, like then a mustache. Gordon wins the day at the end. Like, whoa, I didn't see that coming. Like,
yeah, Bryan, I think it's a great point, and it kind of bummed me out because when Batman got injected, my first thought was, oh, this is going to be sweet. I want to see superhero weird Hulk version of Batman and have just this huge absurd brawler fight. And then when he's like, no, I can resist it, I'll take the antidote, all that stuff. It's like, it's that weird disconnect of, don't make the hero of the game do something against what every player of the game is hoping happens. And like, it's such a specific reference, but it reminds me of in Tron Legacy, like at the end of that movie, it's like, we have to stop Tron from invading the real world. And it's like, what are you talking about? That's the coolest thing that can happen. We're all wanting that to happen. It's like, no.
That's fair.
Then the heroes win, and then the cool thing doesn't happen. Great.
That's fair.
Yeah. So I was hoping for supercharged Batman to happen there. Travis Morgan, he says, I love the game, especially feeling like a more mature version of the animated series. However, Titan Joker is straight up nasty. And really was the only thing that almost took me out of it. He nasty.
It's funny too, Ben, because this is like the buffest Batman I've ever seen in my entire life. You know, so it's like he already is kind of tightened out.
Yeah, he just took a little bit earlier. You didn't get to see it. Mitchell O'Brien had the comment about that. Mark Sharon wrote in talking about, how it just seems so antithetical to everything Joker stands for, just to be like, I want to punch Batman really hard. But I think there's an interesting beat too here where when they cut to like the helicopter footage, and so much of this final sequence is like Joker addressing the coverage. Like he's more interested in the media coverage of the event than the event itself.
Everyone's watching. Yeah.
Right. Like, here's a little story for you in the morning, all that fun stuff. So I think you're right that it is about just tempting Batman, Bryan, more than him being super.
I wish there was a little bit more of that, actually, kind of this ongoing, you get little slices of it, just like, you know, we're hearing Batman might have died inside, and that's unconfirmed reports. Like, I would have loved if that was like a manual thing, if he had like something on his suit that was patched into the radio, and like whenever you wanted, you could go back, kind of Metal Gear style, and just like, what are they talking about? I wonder if they heard what I just did, or I wonder if they noticed poison ivy just like, you know, unleashed her plants everywhere, or, you know, so that when that helicopter shows up, it's like, that's just not random helicopter. That's the guy I've been listening to this whole time. He's been circling the island all night.
Just checking for the Batman hashtag on Twitter.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's Google alerts.
I loved that bit too, where you walk into that room. It's one of my favorite moments of the game, and I didn't really catch it, so I went back and scripted the footage again. But I love when it's Joker and he's just on that tower of mannequins. I'm sure that concept art looked awesome, but there's this tower of mannequins, and Batman's just walking up to him, and there's all these cars running, and Batman's just like, nope, just like punching everybody out of the way, just only focused on Joker.
Oh yeah, he's just like doing so many of these.
Yeah, exactly. No time for you right now.
But it's like, I love that too, because that's very classic. He's like, I know Batman's not going to be stopped by this, but he knows that too. That's like what's fun, this really kind of intimate relationship that these two, you know, men have, that are just like endlessly fighting, you know, that like, Batman knows that Joker knows that these aren't going to stop me, but you still sent them. And like, I imagine like Joker being like, okay, and then you three, you're going to be in this room. And it's like, oh, is that going to be at the end? When like, if he makes it through all of this, he'll be in that room. And like, yes, it's like, so I'm your last line of defense. Like, sure. You know, like, yeah, that's what it is. Like,
right.
He made it through those other 400 people, but you're going to get him.
I think Joker just likes to see all of his cool Batman moves. He's just like, yeah, get that. You know, like, he just has an appreciation for it.
That animation looked really expensive.
Yeah. He's also strangely like a smart Hulk. Like he's the only Titan infected person who still keeps his mind. Everyone else is kind of just like, me kill. You know,
right. Including like, the fact that I like that in that final fight there before you get to Joker's fight, that some of the, I'll just call them Banelings, the big Titan guys, that some of them had like the security guards vest on. So okay, he's actually using your old buddies now for this batch. Sean,
did you guys have trouble with that fight with the Banelings before the big Joker fight? Because for me, the first time I played it and this time I played it, that ended up being the most difficult boss fight for me.
Really?
I mean, not boss fight, but fight. Like I had more trouble with that than I did Joker, weirdly.
I don't think so.
I died a couple times, but I think once you get into the rhythm of like getting one down and then like using him to beat up the other guy,
Right.
and then that guy's down,
Yeah.
and then just chaining it back and forth, that really helps a lot.
Yeah, the first Baneling fight really threw me. I was like, how the hell do these work? I like totally forgot because I would like try to get, you always remember like how many, it's like 1, 2, 3 punches and now you dodge. Like I couldn't get that count down. Like I kept getting nailed, by them in that way. So I think once I got that, that downloaded into the brain.
Yeah. Sean Mills writes in with a very great comment that I'm so happy somebody mentioned, because this is one of those things that throughout the entire game I was like, what is up with that? And I didn't have an answer. So Sean writes in, he says, let's talk about the true villain running Arkham Asylum, Scarface. You see him, the dummy, in a case in the warden's office where you can take a picture of him as a riddle solution where he looks like his normal self. He next shows up during the third Scarecrow scene as the warden for Arkham Asylum doing the announcements as Joker is bringing you in, and he mentions that the Joker cut a smile on his face. And then finally, Joker is shown arguing with him when you finally reach him at the end, and Joker has cut a smile on his face. How did Joker get the doll from the warden's case? How did Batman know that Joker was going to cut a smile on his face before it happened? Also, how weird is it that they included Scarface, but then there isn't a reference to the ventriloquist? Either way, I like that such a minor villain has so many different cameos in the game, and I wish he came back in City or Night.
Yeah, he says ventriloquist. He's like, go back to ventriloquist where you belong.
Right.
But
And I think he's got a character profile as well.
Oh, is that
That's
right?
about it.
It did strike me as odd now, then too, when I first played it, but like, it's almost like they had the prop that they had built and like, maybe Hamill improvised something. Probably not. I don't think you can improvise in like in a game, but like
cool.
It felt tacked on, but in a way that I liked. It's like, yeah, use all your tools. You got this fun Easter egg, throw it in there,
What's cool about what keeps me coming back to Batman, and what I appreciate the Rogues Gallery especially so much is it's like so much of other like X-Men and Superman and stuff, they're all based on like powers. And so it's like, well, how does the power influence their mental state? And it's like reverse in Batman. It's like, well, like Two-Face doesn't really have powers. He's just dangerous, he's just like, it's tough for him to find balance now. And so like all of them kind of have these different archetypes of like, these very dangerous, potentially difficult things that, a lot of people trying to function in society, will have to deal with. And so it's like, it's interesting just to have Joker make fun of mental illness. Like that's an interesting, just be like, look, I here's my comfort thing, my blanket that I use to confront the fears that I myself don't want to deal with anyway. And you're like, you're also insane. Like, why are you, so it's like, it's to me, I like that moment in the sense of him mocking ventriloquist, where he's like, look what this dummy has to deal with. Anyway,
Right.
Also, ventriloquist, one of the later episodes, I think it might be the last core ventriloquist episode of the animated series, top 5. Really one of like just the story they tell in 20 minutes is like out of control. Really, really good.
Is everybody agreed
how he runs his group?
Yeah. Is Heart of Ice just by far the best episode of the animated series? Is there any debate about that?
I think it was the first really good one.
Okay.
I think it was because it won an Emmy, and I think it was the first one that really stood out of like, because that's what you want on a Poison Ivy. Like you want a scientist that is like, stop, I'm trying to do something. Why don't you understand what I'm trying to do? And I think that's what you like lose in Arkham Asylum is what Poison Ivy's like trying to do, other than just like, haha, I'm powerful.
Maybe you know the name of the episode, Brandon, but it's the one where Mad Hatter basically puts him in a dream state, and it basically the episode is him. It's an alternate reality episode with context where he's imagining if his parents had lived.
Oh,
right.
Cool.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like it's incredible because it's all.
And he's
dating
dating Selena Kyle, but Batman's still there.
And he's and it's all about dream logic.
And
like
he tells Selena, who is that? She's like, oh, that's Batman. And he's like, but wait, what? And the thing that's cool about that is like, spoilers, Kyle, you don't know who's doing it. Like you start the episode and he's dreaming, and he's like, wait, what? And so when he finally like cracks out of it at the end, like Mad Hatter's like, you had it made. Like I made this thing for you. I gave you this gift so you would just stop leaving us all alone and let us control this city. And you could have had whatever you wanted. And he's like, I don't want it if it's not real.
I remember my dad watching that episode with us, and even him being like the sort of critical media adult, being like, yeah, that was really good.
As he wipes away a single tear.
Episode.
He's like, crossed. Yeah. Very good.
He's like,
good job. Good job on that.
This is a much better show than Gargoyles.
And some, yeah, like, well, and Harley as well. Like one of the later Harley episodes, she like legitimately tries to not be a criminal, and she can't. She's like, I cannot conform to society. She's like, I don't know what, like she's in like a store trying to buy lingerie, and some lady like starts harassing her, and so she like kicks the shit out of her, and it's like, am I not? So
it's a good show. Good show.
One thing that was cool, that I thought was cool, was that Harley's tapes are basically kind of a retelling of her origin episode in the animated series. Like there's a lot of like kind of similar lines and things like that.
That was one of the notes I added. It almost seems like Joker picked her because her name is Harlequin.
It's like,
did you notice? Did you notice? She's like, yes, I noticed that. You don't think I know that my parents were being cheeky like that? And Joker's like, I think that's pretty cool. She's like, okay. Thanks for the compliment, Joker.
One of my favorite episodes is, I think it's pretty well regarded, is Almost Got Him, where all the villains are playing poker around and they just telling all their stories about how they almost got Batman that one time.
That's awesome.
And there's a really cool kind of twist that I won't spoil, but I think someone actually made a board game based around that episode.
I think it's in our office.
Damn, wow.
That would have been wild.
Deep cut. That's amazing.
With a card game.
Wow.
And it's anytime you're like, wow, that was a good episode. It's like you get the credits, like written by Paul Dini. Like, there you go. Yeah, I think that one was one of the Dini's.
I could have sworn somebody submitted as a comment, but I don't see it here. I'm sorry if I missed it. But somebody referenced like that line where it's kind of like, where it's in that scene where Joker's on the mannequin throne, and Joker's like, you're beating up Harlequin. That's my job. There's some quick line like that where it's just like, oh boy. But I guess he's evil, so it's that confusing thing of like, is it not aged well, or is it just that Joker super sucks? It's tough to read.
It's both.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, he's murdered so many people, and then like we're all just like rolling with that, and then it's like, oh, he's also a spousal abuser, like, and then it's like, nope.
Turns out Joker
just straight up murder was fine.
He gets a slight comeuppance. There's one scene where he's like, do you want Harley to come down there? Oh, wait, I locked her up. Damn. He's like, you want me to come down there?
Ryan, well, I think this was like, we talked a little bit earlier with the Poison Ivy thing, but just this entire section, it just feels like it's just all of a sudden a Joker avalanche at the very end, but not in a very satisfying way. Like it's a strange thing maybe, but just, being so focused on Poison Ivy for so long. And then at the very end here, it's like, and Joker, really just Joker in a couple cutscenes, and then a boss fight where it doesn't even look like Joker, and the end. And it's like, I feel like I could use one more scene leading up to it. A scene even that has my favorite thing in any game where you are in the same room with gameplay as the main villain. Like, it's so rare, but it's my favorite stuff. Like the beginning of this game, I think that it has such a weird impact because it's like I'm walking around next to the Joker right now, And even in Final Fantasy VII Remake, Kyle, when you're in the Shinra headquarters, there's a moment where it's like, I am right next to President Shinra. Like, this is insane that I get to see him in gameplay walk in front of me. And I feel like I needed more of that sense of just cementing Joker at the end here instead of just cutscene where he does cool stuff and then turns into a superhero.
I mean, you'd have to clock it, but like it really feels like from the moment you give your final punch to Joker 2 credits, it's like it feels like a minute and a half.
It's
like
super quick.
It goes so quick. It just wraps everything up. Gordon's fine. I beat Joker. I'm gonna go fly off somewhere for a radio call. Someone's arm grabs the venom out of the ocean and credits. It's like it goes so quick.
I think that's maybe more than boss, big buff Joker. I think that's like one of my main issues with Arkham Asylum is it's just like, all right, we're out. And it's like, whoa, we don't catch up with anybody. He doesn't even like talk to Oracle. Like we're done. Weird. Okay.
They had to get rolling on City like that.
I do like the line. I made a note though. I do like Gordon. Shame about your car. Can I give you a ride?
Oh yeah, that'd be hilarious to just see him in some like 70s police cruiser.
He would get in the back too. He would not sit in the passenger seat. He's just like,
there's more shadows back here.
Batman, put on your seatbelt. I am wearing armor. I don't need my seatbelt. Batman, he pulls over. I'm not driving this car. One more block.
It is interesting they chose Scarecrow's hand for that cameo and then just didn't use him at all for City.
Well, did they? So Dunder writes
it's like
in.
Clue.
Yeah, Dunder writes in, he says, did you know the
endings.
post-credit scene where a villain reaches out of the water and grabs onto a floating box of Titan formula is one of 3 random selections? It was speculated that the scene was tied to how many Riddler trophies you had collected, but it seems the player is randomly assigned a scene with Bane, Scarecrow, or Killer Croc grabbing it at the end. That's cool, because I got Bane in mine.
I am so happy to hear that, because when the game came out, I remember, because I worked at GameStop and I talked to a lot of people about it, because anyone who walked in the store, I was like, let's talk about Batman, please. And I was so sure that I'd seen Croc at the end, and my friend was like so sure he'd seen Scarecrow, that I was like, and I always have believed up until this moment that like one of us was just wrong. Yeah. It's that thing that I just like, that old school kind of like playground code sharing that I never went and checked on the internet. Like, that's awesome. I didn't know. I just assumed one of us misremembered. That's really cool.
Yeah, that's wild.
That is cool. And it was before, now like every second of every game is on YouTube by now, but it didn't seem like that was quite as common way back then.
Yeah, that's how I was reminded of it as I watched that like playthrough, and they put all 3 at the end, and I was like, right.
That's so wild.
I totally forgot about this.
Ryan Schindler is also talking about just the abrupt transitions in the end, where he says there's no transition from when the Joker injects himself to how he got Batman subdued and Gordon tied up in the chair. It just happens. And how is Gordon already up in the chair before Joker and Batman get up there? It's just like that weird cut where it's just like Joker's eyes opening green, and then it goes to the helicopter footage, and then suddenly, hey, you're in a boss fight.
I just don't care about this Gordon. Like, they just have no friendship. It's like, it's interesting because I was thinking about this today, like walking around that. I don't know if you realize this, but I thought about Batman a lot today in this past week. I'm just like taking care of like my almost 2-year-old.
And every week in your life before that as well.
especially this. But I was just thinking about Gordon in general, and it's like, wow, Gary Oldman in the animated series are like the only time like Gordon's like a person. It's the only time they're actually like, they have like an interesting relationship, and like Gordon has to account for that to his coworkers and explain that, and like he's just so not, which is weird because like so many other characters are, like I was saying, like some of the cops like get more screen time than Gordon does, and there's not even like one conversation that he has. Kyle, you were joking that like they kind of dance around him saying that like, I'm going after your dad, Oracle. It's like, well, just say Barbara. Like, who cares? Yeah. So like it would have been, so much more impactful if they really highlighted, like, honestly, you just mentioning Gordon was there at the end. It's like, oh yeah, he was. I forgot. It's such a focus on Joker that it like is a bummer that, oh no, Gordon's going to die. Like, I just didn't really think it was going to go there.
Right.
On that note, did anyone watch that Gotham Fox TV show that was just all about young Commissioner Gordon?
No.
I did not. Yeah, no.
I watched the pilot and I was like, I think I'm good.
I stayed far away. Although Michael Huber watched all of it. So if you have any questions, maybe I'm the wrong person to have on this deep dive. When you bring everyone back for City, give Huber
naturally
a call and he'll let you know.
I think
the only thing that I know about that show is that they finally have like a Batman, and like they went through the effort of making an entire custom bat suit, designed it from the ground up just for like a single shot.
Oh, really? Oh,
like,
that's fun.
That Batman's never going to be used for anything else ever again. So it's just kind of a weird, interesting choice, I guess.
Yeah, I'm also amazed that DC is still continuing forward with that Gotham City PD show, which is kind of the offshoot of the upcoming Batman movie. Like, I thought like after 2020, like I thought there'd be like, a cop show. I think we're good here. But as far as I know, they're still plowing ahead with it. And it's so weird because it feels like, well, that was already kind of Gotham, wasn't it? Like, do we really need to do this again?
Yeah.
There was like 5 or 6 seasons or something, right?
Yeah.
That had its own comic line, and like those cops are cool. Like there's a lot of fun. I actually think the shout out to the Telltale, both of those seasons of Telltale Batman, they do an interesting job of just kind of like showing the cops' role and everything, and Bruce's relationships to the cops and Batman's relationship to the cops. And, there are certainly stories to tell there. It's just like, do you trust? They announce anything in DC, I'm like, all right, I'll have to watch it before I have any sort of expectations whatsoever.
Right. John Skovic submits a comment here. He says, my friend and I still refer to every boss that summons henchmen/minions to fight you instead of fighting you themselves as, quote, and my boys, referencing Joker in the game saying, just you, me, and my boys, when he jumps up and summons enemies for you to fight. Yeah, it is kind of the bummer of like, hey, I'm ready to fight Joker, but like, it's just a bunch of idiots here, and then one of them has a gun. Like, this is too much. I'm not interested in any of this. Wombology says a lot of people say the Joker fight is disappointing because it's just another fight. Titan fight specifically. Well, it is definitely a lame fight. Sorry, just makes me laugh that everyone's just going out of their way to contradict Kyle's opinion. It makes me laugh. Well, there's no doubt amongst anybody sane on planet Earth that it's a lame fight, and boss fights are thankfully a huge improvement in later games.
Okay,
Yep.
right.
It's definitely different than the other Titan fights. It's also a good way to beat up Joker without it feeling like a mismatch, since normally he's a scrawny weirdo. It's satisfying.
Which would feel terrible. You know what I mean? I mean, just pummeling on that little skinny guy who murdered 80 people. I wrote this, crossed this note out, but I do want to mention it. There's one point where like Batman goes into a room and there's two guys dead, and he's like, "Man, while I was busy doing that, he killed these two people. Joker will pay for this." And I was like, really? Will he? You gonna get him, Batman? You really gonna?
Joker.
I'm sure Joker going to bed tonight is gonna be like, I shouldn't have done anything. I feel bad.
Speaking of beating up Joker, Jaren writes in, he says, when Joker injected himself with Titan and his eyes went all crazy, the game immediately transitioned me straight into the final boss arena. Joker was frozen in place on the ground. I could punch him, but I had no effect. I ended up unlocking the 40 times combo achievement from this, then gave up and restarted from the checkpoint. This took me to the cutscene showing police choppers and the proper transition into the fight. And at least one other member of the community talking in the Discord apparently had this exact bug where you can just keep wailing on Joker.
That's so funny.
Whoa.
And of course you're thinking it's supposed to happen. You know, you're like, interesting play, game.
Yeah, it's like the end of God of War 3.
What's this mean?
Okay, right. Starkiller writes in and he says, since this is the deepest dive, I wanted to point out a very minor but important thing. The first name in the credits for Batman Arkham Asylum is Batman created by Bob Kane. This is always a big deal for us Batman fans because Batman was actually co-created by Bill Finger. Bill Finger has been notoriously screwed out of creation credits on all Batman stuff for a long time, even though he's responsible for Catwoman, Robin, Joker, Scarecrow, Penguin, Two-Face, Riddler, Calendar Man, the name Bruce Wayne, Gotham City, Commissioner Gordon, the Batmobile, and the Batcave. And then he mentions that DC finally started giving Bill Finger officially credit in 2015. But this is obviously before that. So I guess, Arkham Knight probably has Bill Finger, right?
There's a documentary about that, actually.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, towards the end, this actually, Bill Finger gets credit in the remake credits, because it starts, original credits, and then it's like goes on forever, and then you finally get to like the remake credits, and Finger is referenced there. But like Kyle was mentioning, the documentary on Bill Finger is super, super interesting, and he was majorly screwed.
Yeah, Bob Kane seems like a dick, right? Is that the consensus here?
A charismatic dick, yeah.
Just like big cigar smoking, I don't know, some sort of Batman. That's how I did.
Yes, he's the Penguin from the 60s.
I guess that's what I'm going
And
for.
the story is that like he talked to Joe and the Superman guys, the guys who created Superman, and one of them, he was like having dinner with them, and he was like, "You're making money. What are you doing, drawing stuff?" And he's like, "I made a superhero, dude. You should make a superhero." And he's like, "Really?" And then he like Monday morning came back and was like, "I don't know, Batman. There you go." And we're like, "Oh, okay." And you go back and you read the first Batman comic where he's like fighting Dracula out of an apartment. And
what?
Like, he's like, "I'm getting married next week." It's like,
I think he's got a gun too, doesn't he? Doesn't he carry a gun?
I don't remember.
I could be wrong.
That might have been one of the
early
ones.
issue where he was carrying a gun.
Yeah, in the first episode or first issue or two, he does shoot a gun, or he does
He's
have
like
a gun.
sneaking out of his apartment at night. He's like, "I gotta go fight crap."
That's so funny that you have him just holding a gun. Get out of my way,
Alfred,
Dracula! I gotta
no,
get married.
yeah.
Like, what is this Batman?
I think Brandon, you probably know this, where it's the different ages. Was it Golden Age? Was that the first one? Where
no, Golden Age was like by Robin and Batgirl and stuff like that, where the Golden Age is always referenced to like, or in my understanding, Golden Age was always referenced to like once it got going, like once all the Rogues Gallery was there, and once it, because that's what kind of you always want to return to, is just like that kind of perfect moment where like all the pieces came together, like before Deadshot and Suicide Squad and all that stuff, like just, it was just him and
Yeah, well, it was like, I remember hearing like with the guns and all that, the early Batman was kind of rough around the edges. Obviously some kooky stuff too, but like the different age transitions, they kind of reboot him every time. And like was like, the kind of more cartoonish, and then he gets, in this, maybe was it the 70s or something? He was kind of more cartoonish in 60s with the Adam West show, and then like, was it maybe the 70s or 80s where it gets kind of pretty hardcore and like it gets way more adult.
Yeah, it was the mid 80s where it was like, he can be dark, I guess. It's like no one had
like
really
Year
considered
One
that.
and Dark
It's fun. Like
Knight
Superman
Returns.
didn't fly for decades. He just jumped real high.
Yeah.
Can leap a tall building in a single bound. He's literally jumping it. Like and it wasn't until I can't remember. It was something live action actually that they were like, maybe you should fly.
Oh, weird.
So
yeah, somebody I didn't get to the comment last week. I'm sorry, but somebody commented on like, it's interesting that this game is picking up from the animated series just because they mentioned that like Batman in the comics in the 90s was like the low point. Is that it was all just so silly, and I'm not too familiar with that trajectory, but that was their take.
Was that the Bane back stuff?
I don't know.
Bane is sweet though.
Yeah.
Oh, Bane is so good.
Anyways, E.N.T. Clark submits a comment. He says, after finishing the final fight with Joker, I jumped back into the game to clean up some of the Riddler trophies. Post-game, there are no enemies to fight. I've ran all the way through Arkham Mansion and intensive treatment, and 0 bad guys are left. I guess it makes sense, although technically when you continue the game after rolling credits, you're playing before the final boss fight. It's just kind of nice, though, to run around an island and not worry about combat.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It is a satisfying feeling of having cleared everything out. Even if
the Batwing takes off. Gordon watches it go away, and then it just flies back. Wait a minute, I forgot. Hold on, what the heck?
There's a bunch of secrets over here. It's driving me nuts. I'm not gonna be able to sleep tonight.
Actually, I was going to bring this up earlier, and I totally forgot. And you are, seem to be pretty keen to all of the bizarre memorabilia that's been handed out at preview events and whatnot.
Yeah.
When did they actually make the Riddler trophy? Was that City, or I remember
I don't
Jeremy
know.
Hoffman had that in his office. He actually had the light up, and they made multiple colors. There was a orange one and a green one, but it was the thing. It was all had wires around it and stuff, and I'm trying to remember. I couldn't remember if that was collector's edition or if they just gave that out at a preview event or something.
I don't know. I know Andy McNamara in his office had a Batarang, right? I don't know what that sweet Batarang was from, but that was very high end.
Keeley has infamous all summer long in 2020. Keeley had the Batarang behind him, and it was just does that mean anything? What do you know, Keeley?
I have
Showing
one of
off.
those Batarangs too. It was something like a limited number. It's a pretty sweet looking Batarang, and it's kind of glued into this plexiglass, so you can't really take it out and chuck it at people. But you can tell it's a high quality one.
Yeah.
You had it?
Yeah. Well, it's in a box or something somewhere.
It's in a
used
box.
to be.
What are you doing, man? You think Batman put that crap in a box?
I had it out at my many offices
him.
over the years, but now there's not really a
No, Jones, no, come back, Jones, no,
Baby would
come
love
back. Leafeon points out that the Batarang apparently is from the collector's edition of Arkham Asylum. So early on.
But I think the one Bryan is talking about and that Andy had, those are you didn't get those from collector's editions. Those were special,
Sent out.
probably from them, right after doing the issue, I would imagine.
Yeah, it could be.
yeah, those are kind of fancy.
Are we talking about random Batman things that we own? Is this
Jesus Christ.
the ski mask? Just whenever it gets
so
really
weird.
cold.
That's so
Nice.
Break it down.
Thanks
Need
for
the
joining
mascara,
us,
that's what you're
Batman. That looks pretty sweet.
Let's finish up this. We don't have a lot left, right?
You really
There's still
should have
3
been
more
wearing that
hours.
this entire time.
Yeah,
I
you
could.
really
There's no
do.
way I could take myself seriously at all. And anybody listening to the podcast, you're missing out.
Yeah, he's basically, he looks cool. It kind of looks like the armored suit from the game. Yeah. Spencer Protein submits a comment saying,
It's the reverse COVID mask is what it is.
but Spencer Protein writes in, he says, I wanted to reiterate how perfect Arkham Asylum's scope is. It took me 17 hours to complete the game and story and find all the Riddler hidden trophies without using any sort of guide or assistance. The game does an incredible job of revisiting older areas so you can snag anything you missed earlier, and none of the collectibles are too hard to find. I wish more AAA games would keep their games to this size today.
Yeah.
That's a good
Especially
point.
after playing Valhalla last year. It's just
Oh my God.
This is whatever, too much. This is it. This is a case study of too much. It's just not, you think once you get into a game and you love it, it's there can't be too much, if I really enjoy something, it's oh yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just
be
time to
done.
move on.
What really helped too was the secrets maps. You can find this thing that would open up all the hints on the map, and that helped you not have to rely on the internet as much.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are nice.
The champ writes in, he says, I think the reason why the Arkham games work so well, minus the Batmobile, is because they are action games that isn't just about attacking a life bar. Most action games will challenge you by throwing enemies at you with more health, and they become like sponges. The challenge in Arkham comes from the situations and enemy layout. It's almost designed like a good platformer. It's a very good point. Yeah,
Hey,
feels so wildly
Kyle,
different.
I got not to jump ahead to later games, but if you're feeling singled out that we're, making fun of your, pro roid Joker moments, I am a Batmobile defender. Everybody in Arkham Knight hates the Batmobile.
No.
I loved it. I loved every moment. I thought it was fun to control. I thought it was a smart way to attack Batman. It's like, it's one of those things, where like you always think about like, why doesn't the cops just deal with this? It's like, how the hell are the cops going to deal with any of the stuff that there's thrown at him at night? Like only Batman can, because he's got this crazy car that can go left and right.
I'm 100% with you. I just replayed, I don't know, the first like 3 hours of Night, and it's great. It controls well. It looks awesome. The way it's introduced in the game, Oracle is like, what are you doing? And he's like, I'm evening the odds. And then it says left bumper, even the odds. And you see the left bumper and the Batmobile shows up. It's weird that people like harp on it so much. I really like Night. Night is still my favorite, I think, after revisiting it recently. I
think I get why they hate it, but I thought it was fun. And it was unique.
I love it.
It felt different than a lot of vehicles in other games.
Yeah, driving around is fun, but then it's just like being in that tank mode. By the end, it was just like,
love it.
Just a little bit too much, but it was still cool in theory.
That's like the most criticism. I mean, this isn't turning into an Arkham Knight, deepest dive, but like, I feel like that's the criticism I get is like, it's a little too much sometimes, but like,
sure.
That game is so good. That game is incredible.
Yeah.
We spent 4 times as long talking about Hook. So, I mean, please, what are we talking about here?
The thing
and then
I
we
liked
had
about
that secret animated series episode embedded in here.
That's true.
That's right. Mm-hmm. The thing I liked about the Batmobile the most is when you could do you're driving along and then you're like, all right, time to eject. And you're just like, pew, immediately
so good.
above all the buildings, soaring.
And that was like the sweetest thing is being on that cover story trip, Ryan, and being like the first press in the world to see that. Like that ejection was the moment where it was like, well, now you have my attention, sir. Like that is as cool as you can get.
I have turned into a Leonardo DiCaprio meme.
I can't help it. But do you remember that demo that we saw? Like how busted it was? I just remember like the frame rate was just like barely. It looked like the PC did when it released, actually. Like that first demo was just one of the roughest demos I've seen. But
it was choppy, but you could kind of tell what was supposed to be happening.
Right. Gabe Brandolino writes in, he says, the Joker challenge rooms are just as absurd as I remember them. They replace the goons with guards and will even throw in the occasional Jim Gordon as a combatant. That's so fun. He says the Predator rooms, while on the surface being much harder due to a lack of tools, you can easily cheese them by firing your pistol, hiding, and then killing every guard, investigating the noise with the explosive teeth, finishing the challenge room in 10 to 20 seconds.
Oh, wow.
It is. I only played a little bit of those. It is weird to shoot someone point blank in an Arkham game. Like, it feels weird.
Yeah, for sure.
That was a crazy bonus for PlayStation people. Like you don't really. Well, I guess you get more like timed exclusives now, but that was a pretty big thing to put in the game for just kind of like one platform.
Yeah,
I mean,
substantial.
You'd say it's of a different age, but we still got Spider-Man and Avengers. Which have they mentioned him since they announced it, Jones?
Oh, Spider-Man?
Yeah, when's he coming?
No. Yeah, there was like a rumor it was going to happen at the beginning of this year, but yeah, they haven't.
We don't need to go down the Avengers rabbit hole. But
don't rain on my Avengers parade.
I'm sorry, I won't.
New update in 2 days, man.
I know. It's so I feel bad for that team trying to be like, it's a great time to come back and play Avengers. Yeah, now it's on the new generation. Like, hey, look, Hawkeye's in the game now. It's like it is the joke character that they would try to get attention for.
With me with Avengers, it's like, are you having fun playing Avengers? Like, love it, play it every day. It's like, cool. Should I play it? Hell no, don't. Really? Do you want to play with you? I don't really. I play single player. Please don't invade my game. It'll ruin it. Go away.
That's so weird. Anyways, Joe writes in, he says, I need to talk about one of the combat challenges, Shock and Awe on Extreme. He says, when I platinumed this game on PlayStation 3, that one nearly broke me. Trying it again now, it's still incredibly difficult. You have a very short timer before the floor becomes electrified and everyone dies. So you have to rush the free flow combat in order to get your score high enough to earn the gold medal. I love the Predator challenges, but some of the combat ones were more annoying than anything else. And this is the worst of them.
Yeah.
That sounds real terrible.
Yeah.
I really never got into the challenges. Like, by the time you beaten the game and gotten all the Riddler trophies, I'm just like, I think even back in the day, I was like, I guess I'll play around with these a little bit, but it's like I don't think you unlock anything cool by beating them or just outside of achievements, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Chris Culkins writes in, just something I was thinking about when I play these games. Why would anyone want to live in this city where the authorities are inept at keeping these supervillains locked up and the mass vigilantes who supposedly operate outside the law refuse to kill them? I'm on Jason's Todd on this side of the universe. And then Sandshrewd says, I 100% agree. I was curious and looked it up, and some guy on Reddit counted that 168 people die during the events of Arkham Asylum.
I wanted to look it up. I wanted to count them, actually, and I don't have time to do that. But I would love to account how many inmates there are. Because, wow, there's a lot of people.
Yeah, he says if a prison riot happened tomorrow and 168 people died, it would be a national tragedy. Judging by how relaxed Gordon and Batman are at the end of the game, it seems like just another crazy night in Gotham. Don't live there. Bryan,
it's really the pizza though. Like the water there, water they use to make the pizza, you can't really get it.
It's true.
You can't get it in Metropolis.
Right. Like there's something in the water, something poisoning in the water, but it makes for great pizza. It's really wonderful.
Where's my pizza green? It's delicious. Pesto. It must be pesto.
Why does my pizza have a mohawk and it's so muscular? Brian with a Rye writes in, he says there are a bunch of ominous Latin phrases written all over the penitentiary, presumably put there by Amadeus Arkham to cement his transformation from healer to executioner. Below are the phrases with the translations. So these are the Latin phrases around Arkham. Translated, there is, no one is above the law, death is certain, its hour is uncertain, an act does not make one guilty unless there is criminal intent. Interesting. Remember that, Batman. And then this one, in huge letters on the second floor of the cell block, it says, not of sound mind. Then another one says, man is a wolf to man. Another one says, on the entrance to the Green Mile in Ivy's cell, it says, free me from hell. Oh, big old Latin fan, Brian with a Y. Thank you. Joel wrote in with a very sympathetic note. He says, hey, Ben, I want to let you know that you're not alone. Thank you. Playing Batman also makes me sick to my stomach. I cannot play more than 1 to 2 hours at a time without feeling nauseous. I don't know why. But it also happened to me when playing Life is Strange. Over-the-shoulder third-person games, maybe? Maybe. Life is Strange, maybe that did it to me too. I should keep track of which ones make me really sick, but just a little Dramamine, everybody. Help yourself out.
Get any weird vibes from Resident Evil 4?
No. I think that was all right, actually, which is weird because that's a very locked, like rigid camera in that third person.
A lot of 180 spinning in RE4 and RE5. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, the last game to do it for me was Maquette. Actually made me so sick I had to stop.
I was saying, I don't think Resident Evil 4 has like camera bobble, but I think the other ones do.
Right.
Where it moves, it bounces a little,
Yeah, for sure. Hey, those are all the comments. Does anybody else have some notes? Something about Batman that we didn't discuss here?
I like that if you keep going back to the visitor center, again, thank you to YouTube for a playthrough that showed me this. But like when I watched it, a lot of the moments where they were like, there's new dialogue options. They would go back to the visitor center and Joker would have like the little TV set. And like he just starts telling jokes. Like he runs out of material to talk about things that are going on elsewhere in the asylum. And like the last couple things he says are just like jokes. Like he's just like, there's some guy. And he goes to his doctor and he says, hey, my wife thinks she's a chicken. And he's like, how long has she thought she was a chicken? He's like, for 2 weeks now. He's like, well, why didn't you come and see me before? And he's like, I needed the eggs. That's it. And you're like, cool. Like I like the Joker's like, I still, I tell jokes, man.
It's kind of my thing. Please don't forget.
Yeah, I still got.
I guess we can talk about
that. Is cool. I want to look that up.
Yeah.
I like when like I'm curious if you had this reaction, Hanson, as a newcomer, but like when you had gone into that hallway a few times and the Joker mannequin was in there, the moment where he like reveals that it's actually him, and he lifts the TV off his head, was like a genuine surprise, which feels like stupid to me now, where it's like, why didn't I assume that was him?
It is fun.
Saw was probably popular at the time.
It makes it more fun. Yeah, I love the line because he goes, I've always wanted to be in TV, or say some dumb joke like that. But yeah, that was cool. I guess I didn't.
But that animation like just is one of those like moments that just sticks into my head of him just being like, oh,
yeah, that was cool. I guess I didn't think about the fact that like, he's been sitting there for the entire game. This seems insane, but sure. He's just
he sees you coming. He gets ready.
Does he have like the intercom in like the TV set? So he's like, "Attention, Arkham!" every once in a while, or how does that work? I guess we didn't talk about like the actual final punch for Joker. You referenced it quickly, Jones, but I love that idea of Batman putting the explosive gel. I just wish that was playable. I feel like it would have been more satisfying just to have the moment of putting the gel onto yourself and then just the one punch. But cutscene, Come on.
And I like that they just touch on just subtly that like that hurt. You know, you're not like, why doesn't he do that the whole time? It's like,
right.
You see his glove and it's like all bandaged and he's holding it, you know, as he's looking at Joker. So it's like, yeah, that probably didn't feel too good.
Yeah.
He also tosses the gel aside, which I was like weird. I'm sorry, go ahead, Brian.
No. On the same note, it would have been fun to play the like summon Batmobile to take off Bane. Like that was another cool moment that you really get to play.
Yeah.
And it's a real even the odds moment.
Yeah, exactly. It's too much to ask. Yeah.
As far as like one like final fun little nugget that I enjoyed about this playthrough was that apparently, and maybe you noticed this, Ben, but in the original version of Arkham Asylum, there's a bunch of rain. You know, there's like rain noise and thunder and things like that. But there really isn't any rain falling from the sky.
Oh, really?
And they made an effort in the remake to actually have like raindrops coming down and like getting on your suit and on your cape and everything. And like, it's a cool effect. But I forgot that it was totally just like completely fake in the original game.
I didn't even notice that. That's such a fun thing. It feels like it's raining, even though I guess it's literally not. Yeah.
I think that was like the main thing where I could tell Night was an upgrade, because the 3 Arkham games in the old gen, like they all look fantastic, was like, you know, when he would spread out the cape and be flying around the city and you could see these like little tiny drops of rain on his, you know, cape. Like, oh cow, next gen Arkham, let's go.
That's incredible. Yeah, I mean, overall, I love the game. I think the first half, like we talked about, I was debating like, why isn't this considered the greatest game of all time? Second half, it took a little bit of a step down, but still just absolutely incredible. Like, I'm so happy that I finally checked this off the list. But does anybody else have any big conclusions, surprises?
It just, to me, will always be the benchmark for like, you think about any comic book character and it's like, wow, I hope they Arkham this thing. You know, it's like, I hope somebody can approach this character like, because it, even just within the Justice League, like you think about all the other characters and it's like, well, a game this good for Flash, for Wonder Woman, for Superman, they would all be totally different games. You know, like you'd have to not think about, oh, okay, well, we have the Metroidvania or whatever. Like, no, it really just works for Batman. Like you'd have to, a Superman, a Green Lantern game would have to be in space, you know, like part of it, you know, so like it's neat to really just start with a character and then think about what makes them tick and then kind of build detective mode, build, you know, the island changing as you get through it, you know, build the people pestering you via dialogue is very Batman, you know, and so I even think like as good as Spider-Man PS4 is, they just did a really good job, you know, building on a legacy that had kind of cemented, you know, starting with, you know, the PS2, Spider-Man 2, you know, and it was just coming along with like kind of a fresh take and really good writing and just a really pretty game and really good combat. But Arkham was just such a curveball in terms of like what you would typically expect from a Batman game, a comic book game, really like a popular license being done in an action format. It's just like,
it's just so many, it's so many smart decisions, and it's so much of Rocksteady going above and beyond what they needed to do in almost every situation. I'm sure at the expense of all their personal lives. I'm sure they just lived at the office to crank this thing out, but it's incredible.
And the writing, I imagine Denny just dumped like pages on them and they were like, holy cow, oh my God.
Right.
Like, do you see, like, they're probably just a stack and they're like, this is just the thugs. This is literally all just them like standing around talking to each other. It's just pages and pages.
Right.
You know, you're like, you go in, because one of the things, you know, my wife's a voice actor, and like when she goes in for like a game, they're like, okay, that was the role we cast you for, but then now can you do this and this and this and that? So you'll see, you can check it on IMDb. When you see Steve Bloom, they're like, we got to get Steve to be a thug and a cop, and because he can really do a distinction between those. And I imagine them being like, oh sure, I'll read another page of something. I'm like, oh my God, you know, it's like, I'm just playing, you know, henchman number 8, but like, damn, he's got 40 lines of dialogue here. But it really paints the world. Like you get a sense not only of fleshing out the believability of Arkham itself, but fleshing out this trial that he goes through the whole evening. You know, that like the thing a thug says in the beginning is totally different from what he'll say near the end. Like their whole attitudes shift and based on the abilities you get. And, you know, just those little bits of him like, hey, Batman, you can't get over here with the line launcher. Like that stuff really has an impact and really makes it feel different and really makes you feel like you're getting more powerful and that you are the Dark Knight.
That's right. Final thoughts on Batman for anybody else? Speak now or forever hold your bat piece.
The best. Holds up.
Holds up.
Good game.
Sure holds up. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to play it again.
Yeah.
I was really scared it wouldn't, but like it does. I absolutely loved it revisiting. It's so good.
Yeah, I'd be interested to play it in another 10 years and see if we still like it as much, or if where games have gone from then. Like, I'm very surprised, like, when I originally played it, like, thinking about playing it, over a decade later, that I would still get kind of the same amount of enjoyment out of it. It's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, I think 10 years from now, we'll probably appreciate it even more on just like the level of how simple it is. It just feels so simple and streamlined. We're not worrying about numbers going up at every second. We're not worrying about 3,000 different collectibles. We're not worrying about co-op, living game nonsense. It's just such a tight, pure, small package. It's just wonderful. But hey, thank you to everybody that submitted a comment. Thanks to everybody that watched or listened, especially thanks to the people that played along. A lot of people who played it for the first time. So thank you so much. Glad to see all your wonderful comments. If you enjoyed the deepest dive, tell a friend. Any help sharing the format is appreciated. We're gonna keep it rolling in the future. I know for sure the next one I want to do, or one coming up that I want to do, but I don't know if we can squeeze one in before that game releases. Maybe. Yeah, we'll squeeze in all of Peter Pan before, May. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, thanks so much. If you enjoy the format, obviously we'd appreciate it if you supported us over at patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's. You support us at any tier. You can submit a comment in the future. And you can also unlock the podcast version of all previous Deepest Dives. This Deepest Dive, our interviews, early access to the MinnMax show, Max spoilers, which we're going to be talking about Falcon and Winter Soldier soon. Yes, Bryan Vore?
Yeah, excited to see where it goes.
Yeah. We really hit like the 2-week window where there's no superhero content going on. It's like WandaVision finished, and then right when this is out the door, then it's nothing but Zack Snyder's Justice League and Falcon Winter Soldier. So I hope this has, been a nice
Avengers.
Yeah, we got it all. Anyways, thanks so much to everybody. We really appreciate the support and any help telling a friend. And Brandon Jones, this is a huge commitment from you. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Oh, this is not a huge commitment. What are you talking about?
It is huge.
Twist my arm, man. Talk with these fine gentlemen and play one of the best comic book games ever made again. Like, it was a treat.
That's very nice.
Again, it was so wonderful to tell my family I have to go. I have a commitment. By Tuesday,
someone's got to clean up Arkham.
Must be done. I must hit credits.
Sorry, crying baby. I must go.
There's some roided Mohawk Joker out there. No, he's going to stop him.
Jones, if people love the sound of your voice, where should they go?
YouTube.com/game trailers is where you're going to want to go, and just go into reviews. You're not going to see any on the front page. You're going to need to search in the back catalog.
Okay. Smart.
Invisible Walls, GT Time is a good one. Mm-hmm. But if you want the new hits, the last 5 years will be at Easy Allies, easyallies.com or patreon.com/easyallies after you go to patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's.
That's very sweet. By the way, we need to talk about the most important thing for this deepest dive, which is those blood transitions on the podcast.
It's so much fun. It's one of the gems of having community interaction is just the weird things that they like. I don't like that. You're like, oh, okay, I didn't think about that.
But what's fascinating?
Yeah, I gave Blood his own segment on the podcast, and they're like, that part where Bloodworth starts talking out of nowhere. What's up with that?
It's such a funny thing. I love listening to Cup of Jones.
He had a story he wanted to cover. I'm like, what? Sorry.
But it's so funny because just the ball gets rolling a little bit of that is kind of a weird thing. And now for it just being this lightning rod, everyone being like, those blood transitions are the worst thing. It is, to be fair, as a listener, it is a little beat. Every time it happens, it's a little bit of what? Oh, okay. It's just that tiny hiccup. But it's so funny that now it's like a big talking point for you.
And whenever you have a Q&A thing, it's always funny when people, you get a couple weeks go by of Patreon involvement and people are like, everything's great. I have this issue, or there's that one show you only did for a while. I wish you would bring it back.
Yep.
Or, why the hell did Kyle like the ending of Arkham Asylum? There's different things, that people potentially have issues with. But I love that one person will come out and say something. And then the next week, 5 more people show up yeah,
get it.
I wasn't going to say anything, but they said it.
Yeah, the ending was broken. Good.
So what the hell is this Bloodworth nonsense?
It's a good time. But yes,
there's never making anybody happy. It's why we got to keep at it.
Yeah, but please check out.
2021 is another year to fill the glass half full at MinnMax and Easy Allies.
You'll get it, man. Everybody check out Easy Allies. The Easy Allies podcast is a great place to start. Okay, thank you so much, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time for the next Deepest Dive. Bye, everybody. Content like this exists because of you. Thank you so much for subscribing on YouTube, sharing it with a friend, and especially for supporting MinnMax on Patreon. Supporters at any tier on Patreon unlock access to MinnMax's Discord, the friendliest place on the internet, where you can compete in game trivia every month to win prizes with our show Trivia Tower. Thanks so much for watching and sharing our stuff, everybody.